Satan? Did you miss me, Buttercup?
Hello, everyone. Guess what it's time for? That's right, we are going to re-enter the depraved spaghetti world of Hazbin Hotel for another round. A number of you guys in the comments for the Season 1 video made it clear that you really want me to cover Season 2, and so I have decided, against the advice of my therapist, to give the people what they want. Although I do find it highly amusing that about half of those comments were like, you need to watch Season 2, it fixes all the problems with Season 1, and the other half were like, if you thought Season 1 was bad, you are not prepared for what comes next. Well, without spoiling anything, one group was certainly correct. If you take a look at the length of this video in comparison to the first, you may be able to take an educated guess as to which one. Where Season 1 was pretending to be a story about redemption, Season 2 is a story about evidence, fact versus fiction, misinformation, media manipulation, the ethics of war, and the dangers of unchecked power. Redemption doesn't really come into it other than that Charlie is trying to prove that she redeemed someone in Season 1, and so thematically this season is a bit of a departure. Before we get started, however, my Season 1 video received some pushback, and so I would like to clarify a couple of my criticisms or concede the points where appropriate. Some have claimed that the intro narration where we learned about heaven, hell, Adam, Eve, Lucifer, and Lilith was obviously biased in favor of hell. But every minute of the show reinforces that this opening narration was in fact the objective truth of what happened. There is nothing we can point at to back up the proposition that this was a biased and one-sided interpretation of what actually happened outside of the fact that this is information contained within a book. The characters and the world operate exactly as they are stated to in that opening narration, and so the many problems with this setup cannot be defended by saying, oh, but this exposition is coming from an unreliable narrator. The narrator is demonstrably reliable. Retarded, but reliable. A common and correct critique of my video is that Satan and Lucifer are not the same person, and yet throughout my Season 1 video I used both names interchangeably. Usually, this would be a serious error on my part. Why would I just randomly assume that someone who is clearly named Bill is also named Jeremy? But in my defense, I was raised as a Protestant Christian. I went to church every week for at least the first 10 years of my life. I have continued to find religion rather interesting even though I no longer believe in any of it. And I have never once encountered the idea that Lucifer, Satan, and the devil are anything other than the same thing. Hazbin Hotel is clearly aware of this because the backstory for Lucifer, as explained in episode 1, is essentially identical to the fallen angel being cast out of heaven as depicted in the Bible. This fallen angel being referred to interchangeably in the Bible as Lucifer, the devil, and Satan. The showrunner herself even uses these names interchangeably on occasion, almost as if she is deliberately being obtuse by characterizing the ruler of hell in this manner.
My favorite character in the show is Lucifer. You know, there is clearly, like, he's literally the devil. I actually don't consider him the devil, but he is like the devil, right? Because he's Lucifer.
To be clear, this is still my mistake, because I intended to treat Hazbin Hotel as its own piece of storytelling without judging it for adhering to or deviating from the Bible. But Hazbin Hotel very clearly and intentionally depicts Lucifer, who outside of Hazbin Hotel is almost universally depicted as being the same entity as Satan, as a depressed goober who did nothing wrong. Therefore, the show wants to muddy the waters of morality by showing that the guy who runs hell, and is typically depicted as the personification of evil, is actually just a bit misunderstood. This would be like Season 1 introducing the character of God and establishing that this character is a vindictive psychopath, and then in Season 2 introducing the character of Yahweh, who is basically just a one-to-one copy of the Christian God from the Bible. It is deliberately misleading, and I was misled, and so for that, I apologize. One of the most baffling criticisms of my Season 1 video is, it's a cartoon, it's supposed to be bad. Yes, I shit you not, multiple people apparently have this view of Hazbin Hotel. Setting aside the, frankly, idiotic proposition that cartoons are some lesser art form, I would love to see Vivi Slop's face if these people were to meet her and be like, oh hey Vivi Slop, I loved your show, it was so fucking dumb, but cartoons, am I right? I particularly liked how you deliberately made something that makes absolutely no sense because cartoons aren't meant to make sense. So thank you again for feeding me with incomprehensible fucking nonsense. I did so enjoy the flashing lights and loud noises. No, it being a cartoon does not mean the show gets a pass for terrible writing. And finally, quite a few people have informed me that I can't criticize Season 1 until I have watched Season 2. This is, sorry for my bluntness, a fucking inane and vapid take, and I am about to explain why. By this logic, no one can ever criticize anything. I can't criticize Season 2 because I haven't watched Season 3. The fact that Season 3 doesn't exist yet is irrelevant because hypothetically Season 3 could just fix all of the problems with Season 2. If I criticize something in Season 1 that is explained later in Season 2, then that is absolutely fine. I shall retract or adjust my criticism as appropriate, but that doesn't mean that the criticism of Season 1 is unwarranted. Let us imagine for a moment that in the Fellowship of the Ring, the Fellowship discovered that Sauron's only weakness is pizza. And then they completely ignored this revelation and continued trying to destroy the ring despite knowing that it wouldn't work. For the Dark Lord can only be defeated via pizza. This would be a self-contained problem within the Fellowship of the Ring. The characters would all be acting like idiots, which is out of character for all 9 of them. Let us imagine that Narsil is the sword Isildur used to cut the ring from Sauron's finger, and then Galadriel gives the hobbits little Narsils of their own, which she got from somewhere. Let us imagine that Gandalf impressed upon Frodo that one should not be too quick to deal out death in judgment, only to then execute Gollum for his crimes in the very next scene. Hopefully my point is clear. I don't need to consider the Two Towers to point out that these theoretical writing problems in the Fellowship of the Ring are fucking indefensible. And saying, oh, but don't you know there's a Season 2 of Hazbin Hotel, is not any kind of shield against 95% of the criticisms I have of Season 1. But, at least until Season 3 comes out, this video is hopefully going to serve as a disarmament of that non-existent shield. For Hazbin Hotel and the fans of Hazbin Hotel now have nothing to hide behind. I have now seen the entire show as it exists at the time of making this video, and I have things to say. Strap in, because this is going to get very messy very quickly. I will now very briefly get you up to speed on what has happened so far. People go to heaven, people go to hell. No one knows why this happens because neither God nor Jesus seem to exist, but it just kind of happens. Every year, the angels of heaven secretly genocide the people of hell because they are worried about hell rising up against heaven. Charlie, the daughter of Lucifer, doesn't like this, and so she opens a rehabilitation hotel in hell. The idea being that when people are redeemed for their sins, they will go to heaven, and so they can escape the yearly exterminations. That is all at the start of the season. Then a whole bunch of bullshit happens, and then at the end of the season, the angels show up for some population control, and during the battle, Sir Pentius, one of the hotel's residents, is killed. Because he acted selflessly, believing that he was protecting his friends, Sir Pentius gets zapped into heaven, proving to the angels that redemption is possible. Which brings us to Season 2. Season 2 picks up 1 month after the end of Season 1. I'm sorry, what the fuck? Why is there a time jump?
It's been a while since heaven attacked hell.
Watching him get fucking murdered right in front of me last month.
So the angels have just done nothing about Adam, the leader of heaven's military, being defeated in battle and then executed. This would be like the Nazis invading the USA during World War II, capturing and then executing Dwight Eisenhower before fucking off back to Deutschland, and then the Americans were just like, what do we do now? The obvious answer is Operation Auf Wiedersehen, but obvious answers don't work in this show, because if we continue the World War II analogy, Vivi Slop would be like, but think of all the poor innocent Nazi children! Shut the fuck up, it's too busy in here, I don't have room for another divergent personality, and if I did, I would lobotomize myself before letting you live here. Okay, right, calm down. What happened at the end of Season 1 was pretty groundbreaking and unprecedented. A lot of angels were killed. Prior to this, the angels believed themselves to be virtually unkillable. Adam and Lut knew that one of their exterminators had died during the prior extermination, but many angels, including Adam himself, have now been killed. The longer the angels wait, the more time hell has to collect and potentially modify and recreate the angelic weapons that the angels inexplicably leave strewn all over hell every year, but we will find out exactly why it took them so long to do anything in episode 2. The evil news channel is trying to scaremonger all over the place by suggesting that Charlie just likes killing stuff, and when she is done killing angels, she will start killing the innocent people of hell. Even though the innocent people of hell kill each other on a daily basis, and even though if we reference Vivislop's live streams and Q&A interviews, which lol fucking no, the innocent people of hell will just respawn in hell when they die, which means there aren't exactly any scares to monger.
I got a question for you. So in Hazbin Hotel, when a character dies, they're already in hell. Where
Yes.
do they go from there?
All I know is that there is like a death, but I'm, even as I develop it right now, I'm not positive, what that death equates to. They get crushed and shot and beat up all the time, and that doesn't really kill them. Right now, I have it so that the only way you can really die is by an angel. Like, only angels can kill the demons in this universe.
This is taken from a podcast recorded 7 years ago, 3 years before season 1 aired. And here in 2026, 17 episodes into her TV show, we still do not have an answer to this basic question. Anyway, regardless of the evil news channel scaremongering all over the place, it doesn't matter if Charlie is a psychotic maniac who gets off on killing people for no reason, because A, so is everyone else in hell, and B, death is not permanent according to the creator. But maybe that's the point, I hear you say. The evil news channel is just a propaganda outlet intended to caricature insert news channel here that Vivislop doesn't like, and so of course what they are doing makes absolutely no sense. Okay, well, if you have the cognitive capacity of spam, then that might be enough for you. But parodies and social commentaries work ever so slightly better if they are acceptable within the setting, even if the setting itself is absurd. Robert Downey Jr.'s character in Tropic Thunder is a fantastic parody of method actors who take themselves far too seriously because it draws on reality and it is never just lol method actors are idiots, let's all laugh at them. The experimental skin pigmentation procedure is obviously ridiculous, but is it any more ridiculous than Daniel Day-Lewis pretending to have cerebral palsy throughout the filming of My Left Foot? No, not really, and in both the actual case of Daniel Day-Lewis and the fictional case of Kirk Lazarus, both men gave fantastic performances in spite of, or perhaps because of, the absurdities of how they approached their roles. The silliness has a point, and even though it is obviously offensive to some people, the results speak for themselves. Tropic Thunder makes this point by contrasting Kirk Lazarus's acting abilities with those of Tug Speedman, who played Simple Jack, a mentally disabled farm boy, and Simple Jack nearly destroyed Tug Speedman's career because of how fucking bad it was. Tug Speedman is not Kirk Lazarus, and so he was unable to convincingly play a mentally disabled man-child. Point being, actors will occasionally take themselves far too seriously, and some may do things that people will find very offensive, but this can lead to incredibly good performances. And Tropic Thunder draws on real examples of real actors actually doing these things, and then gives them a comedic spin. A lot of Tropic Thunder is exaggerated for comedic effect, but its depictions of the various types of actor commonly seen in Hollywood are not particularly exaggerated, if at all. And importantly, these exaggerations are not the whole fucking joke. Tropic Thunder remains both hilarious and relevant nearly 20 years later, precisely because it does not need to exaggerate everything. Hazbin Hotel, conversely, has portrayed a news channel spouting propagandistic lies, an obvious commentary on the not-so-subtle political leanings certain news channels may have. The evil news channel could have been depicted as knowingly lying about the news for political or monetary gain, and later it is depicted as doing precisely this, but here it instead proclaims something that doesn't make sense if you think about it for longer than 2 microseconds. And so, for the evil news channel to believably exist within this absurd setting would require that everyone who watches the evil news channel is a drooling brainlet with the attention span of a fucking pencil.
But random, that's how Vivislop views the people who watch insert news channel here that Vivislop doesn't like, so this is actually accurate.
No, retarded alter ego, that's not how this works. When your parody is this extreme, it is no longer a parody. It is abject nonsense masquerading as thoughtful social commentary. There is a difference between CNN saying, "Don't worry, these protests are mostly peaceful," against the decidedly not peaceful backdrop of a city on fire, and a news channel saying, "Hello, mass murderers who respawn when you die. You should be afraid of Charlie Morningstar because she might kill you." One is a politically motivated demonstrable falsehood, the other is a statement that goes against the very fabric of reality and the apparent rules of the setting. Back at the hotel, Charlie is secluded in her room. She is still determined to prove that rehabilitation is possible, but she is having something of an existential crisis because she has no idea that Sir Pentius is in heaven, which means, from her perspective, she tried to rehabilitate him. This kind of maybe worked slightly, in that Sir Pentius decided to suicide charge an angel, which means if Charlie is wrong and redemption is not possible and sinners cannot enter heaven, then this means that Charlie got Sir Pentius killed for no reason. She has invested a lot of time and effort into something that may not even be possible. She believes her only potential success died as a result of his potential success, and she has decided to not only continue but to step up her rehabilitation program, even though, as far as she is aware, if she is successful, her rehabilitated sinners will be driven to noble acts of self-sacrifice that accomplish nothing and result in permadeath. Charlie is struggling to deal with the death of Sir Pentius, which is good because it means his death has consequences for the people who knew him, but this is also bad because, this being related to an important character beat for Sir Pentius, they turn it into a joke.
And here's when Pentius cried after he was caught spying. And here's when Pentius cried when you forgave him. And here's when Pentius cried when he first lost a cherry bomb.
And here's where Sir Pentius cried when you watched him get raped. Anyway, as she blubbers over the apparent death of the mass-murdering evil scientist who in Season 1 literally built a machine designed to flay people alive, Charlie says,
He truly was the best of us.
No, even you don't think this. He did one good thing, and that one good thing accomplished nothing. Adam blapped him with his death ray immediately. Sir Pentius didn't save anyone. He didn't cause a distraction, and his death did not allow for them to defeat the angels. Which means, at best, Charlie could believe that Sir Pentius found something to fight for, that something in this case being a mass-murdering, drug-addicted lunatic, and he did a piss-poor job of fighting for that something and then died immediately. I must also mention how incredibly lucky it is that Sir Pentius was killed by Adam's death ray instead of by the angelic weapons they use every other time they kill someone in hell. Because, setting aside the unanswered question as to why Adam even needs the exterminators if he can just personally one-shot everyone in hell with a death ray, had Sir Pentius been killed by anyone other than Adam, he would have fallen to a blade made of angelic steel. Which means, according to Vivislop's fucking blue sky or whatever, that he's turbo dead and he doesn't get to go to heaven, regardless of whether or not he redeemed himself. This, therefore, means that the very existence of Season 2 rests on a knife edge, and is entirely reliant upon Sir Pentius leaping in front of Adam, and Adam killing him through very specific means. I will say that there is potential in the idea that Adam accidentally proved that redemption is possible, because he happened to death ray someone who was in the process of doing a heroic sacrifice, but unfortunately this rests solely on blind luck, and so we can't draw anything out of Adam's character as a result. Anyway, Charlie goes downstairs and is shocked by how many people have arrived in the hotel. She believes that they are here to be rehabilitated, when in actuality, they are just here because they want to kill some angels. We get the same fucking joke 5 times, and each time is less funny than the last.
Should I divorce my wife? Should I kill my wife? I killed my wife. I regret killing my wife. Did you hear I killed my wife? Yeah, it's front page news.
Why is it front page news? You fuckers off each other on a daily basis. Whatever. Now I need to remind you of the core cast of characters and why they are in the hotel. Charlie strongly believes that redemption is possible. Why she believes this is a confounding non sequitur that is never explained, and she continues trying to redeem people even though she has zero evidence that it actually works, and even though hell is on the brink of war with heaven. Vaggie is here because she is Charlie's girlfriend, Charlie having, of course, forgiven her for murdering thousands of her people and then lying to her for years, and Vaggie is trying to come up with a new name. Her ideas including Vajamalala, Vagilia, Vazzy, and Vagison.
Oh my god, who gives a shit?
She suddenly doesn't like the name Vaggie because
Adam gave you that name, and it's demeaning.
Adam was the leader of the Angels' extermination squads. He was a vulgar, obnoxious egotist with a childish fascination with sexual anatomy. Hey, wait a minute, that sounds remarkably familiar. Vivi-slop, the mirror flatters not, my dear.
I'd say the characters I have like the least of myself in, probably Alistair. Like I feel like Alistair has like an ego. I don't see myself as that big of a deal. He has such an ego that I'm like, I don't really...
Wait, but I thought you were totally awesome at everything except storyboarding.
It's difficult because I'm not a board artist. It's like the one thing that I'm not good at.
Whatever. This is why Adam named Vaggie after the best thing in the world, the vagina. She eventually turned against the Angels and found herself in hell, continued to use the name Vaggie for some reason, and years later she has now decided, actually, you know what, I don't really want to be named after my genitals. Angel Dust is here because he seemingly wants to redeem himself, even though he later says that he doesn't. He is a disgusting drug-addicted pervert who sexually harasses every other character in the show. His life motto, even after the events of Season 1, is "Harder, Daddy." But he claims that he has started to enjoy talking about his feelings, which means we are to believe that sitting in a circle talking about how much it sucks when you get raped by your boss is actually working, even though Season 1 showed us that it absolutely is not working. Which means a hack has discovered a hack for writing character development. What you have to do is have a time jump, and then after the time jump, you have the character say that they are now different to how they were before the time jump.
Just watch me change. Here I go, I'm changing.
Cherry Bomb is here because, as we saw in the finale of Season 1, she has come around to the idea of creating a redemption hotel and getting people to better themselves.
We can do this, we can build it. Best hotel that you've ever seen.
What's that? Season 2 is ignoring this sudden and inexplicable change in her character? She is apparently still a mass-murdering, nihilistic maniac who enjoys blowing shit up for absolutely no reason? She claims that she is hanging at the hotel, but that she is not staying here for rehabilitation. So I guess this means that when she was singing about how awesome the hotel is at the end of Season 1, this was entirely because she is a character in a musical, so she sings the song. Or, in other words, the audience must ignore what characters say and do during these musical sequences because they are isolated bits of artistic expression that have no bearing on character arcs or plot. Lucifer, Charlie's father, is here because he is trying to reconnect with his daughter. Alistair is here because he finds the whole redemption thing quite funny and he likes watching people fail. Nifty and Husk are both here because Alistair owns their souls and they do not have a choice. Which brings us to a newcomer introduced in this episode. Baxter identifies himself as a mad scientist. He does not intend to redeem himself, but he wants to study the concept of redemption, believing it to be impossible. It is ever so slightly fucking funny that the show seems to think that you can scientifically measure redemption, but okay, fine, he's a mad scientist with a redemptometer in his pocket. Anyway, this means that Baxter is established as having the exact same view as literally everyone else in hell aside from the main character, which is a fantastic way to distinguish him from everyone else. Baxter is like, hello, I'm not here to be redeemed, and Charlie is like, oh yes you are, so she sings a song about how Baxter is here to be redeemed. We then get a bizarre comedic moment where everyone suddenly becomes obsessed with Nifty, the Adam Slayer, because Nifty is the one who killed Adam at the end of Season 1. Charlie does not approve of this glorification of violence.
Nifty was acting in self-defense. We shouldn't celebrate what she had to do.
The writers evidently do not remember their own show. I mean, it was only last episode, and in terms of runtime, this happened 20 minutes ago. Nifty did not kill Adam in self-defense.
Do you ever worry that you're just going to forget something?
All the time.
Adam was defeated. Charlie prevented Lucifer from killing him, which means, as far as Charlie was concerned, Adam was no longer a threat. Adam then started monologuing, and then Nifty stabbed him in the back. Maybe Adam was still a threat. Angels are incredibly powerful and dangerous, and Adam has a death ray that can apparently one-shot everyone, but specifically from Charlie's perspective, Adam was defeated.
Whoa, Dad. He She's had enough.
Which means her claim that Nifty killed Adam in self-defense is not true. And the show does not recognize this.
I like being tight.
This character is a child. Then we are introduced to Mr. Vox. Vox was in Season 1, but he didn't do anything outside of one episode, and in Season 2 he serves as the primary antagonist. Vox pays a visit to the evil news channel that he owns to complain to one of the news anchors about a newspaper article about Charlie's Redemption Hotel. I'll say that again. He complains to the news anchor about a newspaper article. Whatever, as funny as it is that Vivi Slop appears to think that news reporter and executive newspaper editor are the same thing, we need to keep going. Because Vox is evil, he is unhappy that the newspaper is putting a positive spin on Charlie's Hotel, claiming that the only purpose of the news is to scare and therefore control people. And so he decides to leverage the popularity of the hotel for his own ends. Okay, so this is the scene that sets up the main villain of Season 2, and like basically every scene in this fucking show, it demonstrates a fundamental failure to understand how stories function. The objective, from the perspective of the writers, is to introduce the character of Vox, or more specifically, to remind the audience that he exists and that he is evil. They then wrote a scene in which he speaks with the news anchor, clearly establishing that he owns the evil news channel, and he explicitly states that he uses it as a propaganda outlet to control people. The scene ends with a cliffhanger indicating that he has an evil plan of some kind, and we will have to wait and see what that evil plan is. Sounds good on paper. Now let me poke a hole in this delicate air balloon and send it floating pathetically back down to Earth. Why, specifically, is Vox here? The reason is that he is not happy that the newspaper has put a positive spin on Charlie's Hotel. Vox being pissed off by this makes sense given what we know about him, but let's go one layer deeper. Why did the newspaper that is owned by Vox Tech put a positive spin on Charlie's Hotel? They just kinda did, for seemingly absolutely no reason. The evil news channel and the evil newspaper company are seemingly the same entity, and they are cartoonishly evil. Their boss is open about the fact that he sees the news as propaganda and nothing more, and yet the evil news anchor, who is also the evil executive editor of the evil newspaper, decided to write a positive story about Charlie rebuilding her hotel. This would be like Fox News suddenly running a story that supports Joe Biden. And on top of the fact that the evil newspaper company has zero reason to be positive about the hotel, the evil news anchor personally dislikes Charlie.
You can put that away. I don't touch the gays. I have standards.
So she has even less of a reason to be nice about the hotel. How does the show address this nonsense, I hear you ask? Well, like this.
I'm so sorry, sir. You can punish me.
Ew. No.
She gives a dismissive apology, and then we get a sequence of sex references because I refuse to call them jokes. Which, honestly, that's just a summation of Hazbin Hotel. It does something that doesn't make sense, and if it acknowledges that it doesn't make sense, which is a big if, it will try to distract the viewer with sudden and prolonged sex gags. Vox later reveals his evil plan to his underlings Velvet and Valentino the Turbo Rapist. He wants to use the recently revealed knowledge that angels can be killed, and therefore that the population of Hell no longer needs to just sit back and get exterminated every year, to start a mass uprising against Heaven, with the V's at the top. They explicitly don't have any means of actually traveling to Heaven, as you can't simply fly there and start taking over. You need portals to travel in between these different realms, but no time for that now. His evil plan is summed up very concisely as line go up equals victory. How his desired ascension will work is unclear, and this is entirely as a result of piss-poor world building resulting in zero clarity as to how powerful any particular entity is. So far, the show has communicated that when a soul dies, they will either become a sinner and go to hell, or they will become a winner and go to heaven. If a sinner accumulates enough power, although what constitutes power is left unspecified, they level up and become overlords, Vox and Alistair being two examples. Entirely separately to this, we have Hellspawn, such as Charlie and Lucifer, and they are sometimes the most powerful entities in the show, and other times they are totally useless. Then we have the angels. Winners sometimes become angels, but again, how this works is never addressed. Angels are immortal unless you kill them with their own weapons, and if you are a particularly special angel, you may have access to Dragon Ball Z powers. Then we have the seraphim, who are in charge of heaven, which presumably means they are more powerful than regular angels, although, again, the show is unclear. And finally, God.
What?
Because, yeah, during his musical number, Vox makes reference to an unholy trinity, which implies the existence of a holy trinity, otherwise he is just making nonsensical mouth noises, and he also refers to heaven as the kingdom of God.
Our unholy trinity, the shining kingdom of God.
This is a huge revelation that the show just completely ignores. God fucking exists. But so as to keep things streamlined, I will dive into that topic a little bit later. Point being, for now, Vox is currently an overlord and he wants to attack heaven so that he can rule it alongside hell. During his musical number, he rhetorically asks, "What's an overlord to a deity?" suggesting both that there is such a thing as a deity, otherwise he is again just making nonsensical mouth noises, and that he believes that taking over heaven means he will quite literally ascend and transform from an overlord into a god, which will definitionally make him more powerful than the other overlords. How and why are pretty basic questions, but pretty basic questions are unfortunately too much for this show. And so we must conclude that Vox believes that power, consisting entirely of influence, status, and presumably wealth, makes him a literal god who is above all other entities in the setting. This is messy because, as he explains, when he was alive on Earth, he was a cult leader, and he enjoyed being worshipped by his brainwashed followers. Vox had a god complex, which is why he wants to rule both heaven and hell, but Vivislop seems to have confused having a god complex with believing oneself to be a literal god, which is not quite the same thing. Anyway, then this happens.
Charlie! Heaven's going into lockdown because, Adam was killed, but now Sarah is worried about hell wanting revenge, and Heaven doesn't want any more death, but is really scared of what's going to happen next. Anyway, long story short, Penchus was redeemed, and he is in heaven now. Yay! But don't worry, I'll be back again as soon as I can. But yes, your hotel totally works. Congratulations! Bye!
This is presented as a joke, and it is mildly amusing, although not for the intended reason. This is meant to be a loud, quirky character suddenly appearing for seemingly no reason and frantically giving Charlie earth-shattering news about the nature of reality before disappearing, leaving Charlie overwhelmed and stunned. The reason I find this funny, however, is that this occurs after 25 minutes of bullshit spent doing stuff that doesn't matter. Aside from establishing that Vox wants to take over heaven, nothing important has actually happened in this episode. And so, in order to get the story moving, Vivislop decided, hey, you know what would be funny? If I info-dumped an episode's worth of exposition in about 10 fucking seconds and disguised it as a joke. Had the rest of this episode been worthwhile and useful on a narrative level, then this joke would have worked far better. But instead, we spent 25 minutes spinning our wheels before actually getting on with the story and continuing from where we left off with the big important question. What happens now that Serpentius has ostensibly been redeemed? And on that note, it's time for episode 2. Episode 2 takes place concurrently with Episode 1, which means we now get to see what Heaven has, or rather has not been up to, in the month that has passed since Adam's death and Serpentius's redemption. The angels are like rabble rabble while Emily desperately pleads with them.
We shouldn't be worried about this. We should be making things right.
Indeed, the angels certainly have nothing to be remotely worried about, other than the teeny tiny fact that they can fucking die and the ontologically evil population of hell has a very good reason to kill them all. Sarah is still absolutely confident that sinners cannot get into heaven, and she asks St. Peter if he let Serpentius in through the pearly gates. This is something I missed in Season 1 because, honestly, my brain had overloaded on cringe by Episode 6. St. Peter exists, and yet seemingly, Jesus Christ does not. What Vivislop obviously wants me to do is be like, oh, is St. Peter, that's a name that I know, ha ha ha, isn't this fun? But no, fuck you, the existence of St. Peter necessitates the existence of Jesus Christ, and therefore the existence of the Christian God and Christianity. So to everyone who was like, no, stop talking about the Bible and Christianity, this is a TV show that has nothing to do with Christianity.
No, ha 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 ha.
If God, Jesus, Christianity, the Bible, and St. Peter all exist within the fictional setting of Hazbin Hotel, which they categorically must if this is St. Peter, then this means the way you get into heaven is by adhering to Christian values, by recognizing and repenting for your sins, and by believing that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and that he rose again. Not some modern non-religious interpretation of, oh, just be kind of nice or something. This was a topic I did my best to avoid in the Season 1 video because Season 1 presented a framework that everyone knows is rooted in the Bible and therefore in a Christian moral framework, but because it is a work of fiction and because the mystery of how you get into heaven is part of the narrative, I couldn't just declare, well, these characters are all idiots, they just need to read the Bible and the mystery is solved, because maybe the Bible and Christianity do not exist in Hazbin Hotel. But because Vivislop wanted to just have St. Peter be here, acting like an awkward, pathetic goober, she has blasted a hole in her cardboard ship. If St. Peter exists, then this means Jesus exists. We even get a reference to one bearing the cross, which only holds meaning because of the manner by which Jesus was executed, which means Jesus is in heaven, which means everyone in heaven is a Christian whether they know it or not. Everyone is going to be familiar with the death and resurrection because without the death and resurrection, none of them would be in heaven. And yet everyone is still like, well, it sure is a mystery as to why all of us Christians ended up in heaven. But the next question is, why then is Sir Pentious in heaven given that he has not accepted that Jesus Christ died for his sins? Well, I dunno, lol. Sorry if that's an unsatisfactory answer, but I have already given this far more thought than the writers, and I've got nothing. I guess the rules of Hazbin Hotel are that you need to adhere to Christian values, but if you don't, and you're kind of a good person sometimes, then you might also be allowed in. Lute, meanwhile, is very pissed off that Adam is dead, and she, quite understandably and quite correctly, wants to do something about it.
He killed Adam. That's an act of war.
That isn't what happened. Nifty killed Adam, but whatever. This is just an important narrative beat in your story. Sometimes mistakes happen.
Do you ever worry that you're just going to forget something?
All the time.
Lute uses this as a justification to exterminate everyone in hell. And just when everything is about to kick off, who could possibly show up but the Speaker of God? Yes, that God. Season 1 completely avoided any explicit acknowledgement of God because, even for a good writer, it is difficult to write a character like God. So the writers opted instead for just kind of not mentioning him, which means until St. Peter was introduced in episode 6, there was no indication that there even was a God. The show otherwise gave the impression that Sarah was in charge and that the angels ran heaven. But now, Season 2 has decided that actually God not only exists, but communication with this God is possible via the speaker. We can be like, okay, well, how can Sarah, the highest-ranking angel in heaven, not know how one gets into heaven because she can just fucking ask God? But I would go one step further. This God is the Christian God, Jehovah, he who is the Almighty One, the Father, creator of the heavens and the earth. He is obviously the unnamed cosmic force that allocates souls into either heaven or hell, and Sarah must know this. It is not possible for her to not know this. She doesn't have to do anything to know this, because her existence within the setting of Hazbin Hotel, as it has been established, necessitates this. So why on earth did Vivislop decide to suddenly be like, actually, you know what, God is real, mystery solved? The only answer I have is that she didn't understand how damaging this would be to her afterlife setting. So the Speaker of God shows up like, hey everyone, calm your titties, and then she asks Sir Pentious the exact same question that Sarah has asked him twice before. She asks for an explanation as to how he got into heaven. Wait a minute, is the show suggesting that God doesn't know how morality works? No, it can't possibly be that dumb. It must be that God didn't speak to the speaker, so the speaker doesn't know. God absolutely knows, he just isn't telling anyone for some unknown reason. Serpentius then tells everyone his backstory. He was once an inventor in the late 1800s when suddenly he saw a woman get shanked by Jack the Ripper. He apparently recognized the murderer as a man with power, but he was too afraid to report him to the police, which is why Jack the Ripper was able to murder 5 more women.
I carried that guilt to my grave, and I ended up in hell.
This is not explicitly stated, but the strong implication is that Serpentius ended up in hell because he did not report a murder. I now have free reign to talk about Christianity because Vivi Slop is an idiot who explicitly made Christianity a part of her TV show. As far as I am aware, the Bible does not require Christians to report serious crimes, presumably because this life is fleeting and the one afterwards is the one that actually matters. However, the Bible does absolutely say to love thy neighbor, and so failing to protect thy neighbor from Jack the Ripper is in contravention to this dictum, even though thou shalt report serial killers to thine nearest Bobby is not the secret 11th commandment. Serpentius was scared shitless by what happened. He not only witnessed a murder and so was traumatized and afraid that he would be murdered if he tried to help, but he also recognized the murderer as a man with power, so presumably a politician or a wealthy businessman. Serpentius had a very good reason to believe that if he went to the police and identified the killer, he would be killed. And if this happened, then Jack the Ripper would very likely still have killed 5 more women, but regardless, his reasonable fear for his own safety led to the deaths of 5 more women, and he feels quite guilty as a result. His inaction and cowardice then resulted in eternal damnation at the hands of God the Almighty, and he only escaped his torment over 100 years later when he tried to kill an angel. There is quite an amusing parallel I can draw here that highlights just how fucking balked Hazbin Hotel's sense of morality is. Condemning Serpentius for failing to stop Jack the Ripper is like condemning all of the various women who were abused by Harvey Weinstein for failing to alert the authorities, which then allowed Weinstein to continue his abuse for over 3 decades. The simple fact is that Weinstein's victims and Serpentius could not prove jack shit. The person they would be accusing was far more powerful than them. Weinstein ruined the careers of women for simply rebuffing his advances, and Jack the Ripper was a powerful and violent man who would have no problem killing a reclusive nobody with no friends and no one who would miss him or even notice his absence. Point being, although we can sit here and say that the morally correct thing to do in these situations is to report serious crimes such as these, the fact is that there are many factors that may prevent you from doing so, one being the very rational and well-founded fear that you might meet with an accident if you do. So really the only thing I can conclude from this is that when Harvey Weinstein's victims die, they are going to hell in Hazbin Hotel, which means that Vivi Slop thinks that Christianity dictates that they deserve to be in hell. In summary, according to Vivi Slop's confused interpretation of Christian morality, if you don't report a murderous lunatic, you are going to hell, and if you die in a failed attempt to kill an angel, you are going to heaven.
By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Anyway, Serpentius continues that his friends were in danger, and he decided that he had to do something.
I had to do something. This time, I would do something.
This seems like good writing because it directly references character growth. Serpentius did not want to make the same mistake twice. He was too scared to report a serial killer, so he ended up in hell. He then made some friends and decided to do a heroic sacrifice to protect them, thus showing clear character growth that is informed by a mistake he made in the past. But the problem is that his heroic sacrifice, the time when he developed as a character and finally grew the balls to do something, accomplished nothing, and he died immediately. Currently, Serpentius has no idea if his friends are even alive. He knows that Adam is dead, but that doesn't mean there were no other casualties, which means, if anything, Serpentius deciding to try and save his friends only to die instantly and not make a lick of difference to the outcome of the battle should only reinforce to him that he was right the first time. selflessly putting yourself in danger to protect others is a bad idea. Which essentially means that Sir Pentious should not have grown as a person, and he should still have the exact same mentality that he had back when he didn't stop Jack the Ripper, which is what got him condemned to an eternity in the Lake of Fire in the first place, and yet, inexplicably, he has changed his mind, which is why he is now in heaven. The Speaker of God declares that Sir Pentious is redeemed. Lute is like, hell to the fuck no, and she attempts to command the exterminators to attack Hell, but she is informed that she is not the leader of the exterminators, in spite of having been Adam's number 2. The leader of the exterminators is actually Adam's son Abel, who is voiced by Patrick Stump of Fallout Boy of all people, and because he is a man in Hazbin Hotel, he is a useless, effeminate, and incompetent dweeb.
Pretty pathetic, huh?
In something of a surprise, the writers actually give Lute some very good reasons for believing what she believes. Typically, a bad show such as this would require that Lute is wrong, so the writers would have her spout a load of obviously incorrect nonsense so that the morally righteous characters can be like, no, Lute, you are wrong. But here, the writers may have actually gone a bit too far by making her the only reasonable person in the room. Lute has seen firsthand what the demons are capable of. She has been to hell many times. She knows how dangerous they are. Yes, she is emotional and she certainly does hate them, but this hatred is not irrational. She is entirely justified in wanting to do something, given that Lucifer, his daughter, and a load of sinners and demonic hellspawn just executed Adam. Lute would presumably acknowledge that Charlie herself is not any particular threat, but Nifty, being the perfect example here, is absolutely a threat, because she is a violent and psychotic murderer who stabs people for shits and gigs, and who now has access to weapons that can kill angels. Of course, the only reason why Hell now has access to angel-killing weaponry is that the exterminators inexplicably leave all their weapons in Hell every year so that they can be collected and used against them, which, yeah, okay, I know that the angels didn't know at the time that these weapons are the only thing that can kill them, but even so, you do not leave valuable resources such as these strewn across a battlefield, otherwise you're going to end up in a situation where the Taliban suddenly has 33 operational Black Hawk helicopters. Anyway, Lute is willing to give her life for heaven to stop Hell taking over, and she is not just going to let Hell execute Adam and then roll over and do nothing. Because every other character in this room is insane, they are like, no, we can't do that, redemption is demonstrably possible now, so we can't just go in and carpet bomb the place. And both Lute and myself are like, excuse me, yes you can, and you should have done that already. The potential for some sinners to eventually turn into nice people if given the right opportunity doesn't change the fact that currently they are not good people. They fucking hate you, and they have access to angel-killing weaponry. The logic here isn't even, oh, but think of the good ones who will get caught in the crossfire. The logic is, oh, but think of the bad ones who might do something nice one day, who will get caught in the crossfire.
Hey, nice to meet you, Thor. Got a thunder. By the way, eat this.
So now allow me to take a moment to explain why Lute did nothing wrong. The argument against the death penalty is that it is based on a fallible legal system. It is possible that an innocent person could be executed for a crime they did not commit, and if you run this system for long enough, then it is essentially guaranteed that one or more innocent people will be wrongly executed. But this isn't applicable to Hazbin Hotel. Because there is a cosmic force that allocates people to either heaven or hell when they die, and we can now very confidently name this cosmic force as God the Almighty. This means when the angels go to hell to genocide a load of sinners, they are, or at the very least should be, killing a few thousand serial rapists and child murderers, which means the question as to whether or not you are executing the right people is a non-factor. They are in hell. Therefore, they are evil. Therefore, they are the right people. Where this gets confusing, and by confusing I mean nonsensical, is that the show occasionally depicts supposedly innocent children in hell, and it also depicts Serpentius, a psychotic and cartoonishly evil mad scientist type who has killed countless people in hell himself, getting redeemed of his past sins and going to heaven, purely because he got himself killed in a selfless manner that ended up accomplishing the sum total of fuck all. In short, Serpentius had good thoughts in his head when he died, and so all of his wickedness was undone and overwritten, and he went to heaven. Therefore, the show wants us to conclude that redemption is possible, which means it is morally wrong to genocide the people of hell. But the problems here are so numerous that I don't think it is even possible to catch them all. Serpentius doing what he did does not mean that he is not still evil and deserving of a place in hell. The same cosmic force, God, that put him in hell then changed its mind and put him in heaven, which means this cosmic force, God, is fallible, and so therefore God could have made a mistake by putting him in heaven, just as he supposedly made a mistake putting him in hell. Even if Serpentius is genuinely a good boy now, this does not apply to 99.9% recurring of people in hell as seen throughout Season 1. And so, if hell poses a real and genuine threat to heaven, then heaven taking steps towards ensuring that this threat is unambiguously dealt with is entirely reasonable and not at all evil. Even if we take the most reductive view of this moral conflict, we have two factions, both of whom do bad things. One faction has the larger stick, and so they use it to keep the other faction in check. The faction with the larger stick should not feel bad about having and using their larger stick, because, as we will see in Season 2, if they do not use their stick to beat their enemies into submission, they will get beaten into submission. That is called survival, and saying, oh, but think of the hellish demon creatures who rape and kill each other when they're bored, it's not their fault, boo fucking who, does not change the fact that Adam was right to do what he did, in spite of the writer's best efforts. But don't worry, the mishandling of the villain in Season 2 blows what happened with Adam out of the fucking sky. Anyway, the conclusion is that heaven will take no action against hell, at least not yet, and Lute is allowed to walk free, which won't have any unforeseen consequences. Later in the episode, she hallucinates Adam and convinces herself that she is going to kill every last person in hell. We get the song Gravity, which is the best song in Season 2 because it is just edgy enough without being cringe, and it even includes some biblical parallels about evil being washed away by a great flood and the like, and this cements Lute as being the only character in Season 2 that I am rooting for. Unfortunately, Lute does not do anything after this scene.
Disappointing.
Meanwhile, Emily has been tasked with looking after Serpentius. She makes a load of loud, annoying shrieking noises, which the subtitles inform me is meant to be dialogue.
Shut up! Just shut up!
I am determined to make sure you have the best time!
Shut the fuck up!
Tell me everything about yourself!
Shut the fuck up!
We have a lot of sugar here.
Then shut the fuck up!
Kittens? Puppies? Koalas?
For Christ's sake, will you just shut your trap?
So cute!
Shut the fuck up and let me do my job!
But Serpentius just wants to see his friends again, and to know that they are okay. This is good. Friends are apparently the most important thing to him, as this newfound friendship is what informed his heroic sacrifice, but Emily replies that his friends are probably okay, but that he cannot see them.
Oh, they are fine. I hope. But don't worry about it.
Can I see them?
Oh, well, no. I don't think you can.
I don't know why he can't see them, and you guys are not fucking ready for how much of this season is entirely reliant on the inability for Serpentius to go back to hell, or to even show his face. As far as I can tell, Emily can literally open a portal and go there right now, but actually it's not allowed, sorry. Serpentius then starts crying, realizing that he will never see his friends again, and that he is stuck in heaven with this obnoxious squawking teenager blowing out his eardrums every few seconds. Emily then sings a song about how much Sir Pentious is going to enjoy being in heaven. The lyrics reference how he is out of place, given that he is the first sinner to find himself in heaven, and that he is going to have to start his life anew moments after he actually managed to find people that he cared about. Everyone in heaven is sickeningly and artificially happy and upbeat, whilst Sir Pentious is like, oh, this is just my own personal hell. I don't want to be here. I can't leave, apparently, and I seem to have been punished for doing the right thing. Sir Pentious then decides to kill himself. He takes out a gun, points it at his head, and pulls the trigger. But instead of a bullet, the gun shoots confetti, and Sir Pentious realizes that he can't even escape through death.
What the fuck?
This is meant to be funny because of the contrast. The song is a bouncy pop track about how happy and fun everything is, which then has the direct opposite of the intended effect on Sir Pentious. He gets angry and depressed and eventually tries to end it all, but to no avail. Unlike was the case with Poison in Season 1, where the intended effect was that the audience deeply sympathize with Angel Dust, the intended effect here appears to be, lol, he's stuck, isn't that funny? And I'm like, no! This character has been punished for doing the right thing, and he has now been driven to suicide as a result. But don't worry, because this is Sir Pentious, we are not supposed to take this seriously. His attempted suicide is not going to be addressed anywhere else in the show, and this is simply a one-time gag intended purely as shock humor. As for why the gun fired confetti, I've got nothing. Presumably this gun was built by Sir Pentious while he was in heaven, unless heaven has shops that sell surprise confetti guns for some reason, which means Sir Pentious could have and should have been able to successfully kill himself right here, but the plot literally did not let him. This also, rather amusingly, means that if Charlie succeeds in her goal of rehabilitating sinners, they will sequentially get sent to heaven once they are redeemed. They will realize that they can't leave and that they fucking hate being there, and they will be driven to suicide, whereupon they will realize that their torment is unending. These redeemed sinners would find themselves in an actual hell to suffer for an eternity as a direct result of Charlie's intervention.
Mission accomplished.
Sarah then has a meeting with Abel and Saint Peter. Sarah is in charge of heaven, and Abel is the leader of heaven's military, so okay, that makes sense, but I can't tell you why Saint Peter is also here, because his job is to stand at the gates of heaven and to either open them or not. But, I mean, the reason he's here is because the show seems insistent on belittling him to show how useless and pathetic he is.
I watched the gate, really well. Okay?
We get it, Peter. Shut up.
Sarah recognizes that things have changed. Hell now has the ability to harm angels, and they have very good reasons to harm angels. Abel, however, is a useless pussy.
See, I don't much like confrontations, so I don't love the idea of going down there for revenge or anything. But they did sort of kind of kill my dad a little bit, so maybe?
Wait, hold the fuck on. I know that this is a joke, but you can't tell me that Sir Pentious went to hell because he was a coward who was too afraid to stop a serial killer, and then 2 minutes later tell me that Abel, who is in heaven, is a coward who is too afraid to stop hell. Actually, I guess you can tell me that, because backwards anti-logic is this show's bread and butter. Anyway, St. Peter is asked for his input for some reason, and he replies,
I just watched the door.
Why are you fucking here then? Vivislop really has a problem with St. Peter to the point where she will just insert him into scenes for no reason other than to mock him, and she will even include dialogue within those scenes acknowledging that he is there for no reason. What possible problem could Vivislop have with St. Peter? Let me refresh my memory. St. Peter was one of the 12 apostles. He's considered the first pope, and he established the Christian church. Of course, it was this guy! St. Peter is the reason why Vivislop's parents made her go to church every week. St. Peter is the reason why she had to wait for 30 seconds before stuffing her face while her parents paid tribute to the flying spaghetti monster. And St. Peter is the reason why Christians keep blowing up children at pop concerts. Wait, No, that's the other. Here's the annoying part of this. I agree with her. I am not a Christian. I take issue with many parts of Christianity and religion in general. But one difference between myself and Vivislop is that I don't have a Christian alter ego popping up every 5 minutes in all of my videos to make fun of silly things that the Bible says. No, get out of it, Christian alter ego. I just told these fine people that you don't exist. Please don't turn me into a liar.
I like Deuteronomy.
Fuck. Okay, why do you like Deuteronomy?
Chapter 23, verse 1 states that it is forbidden to enter a church if your dick is broken.
There's no way it says that.
So saith the Lord. Also, chapter 25, verse 11 states that if two men are fighting and the wife of one of them comes to rescue her husband from his assailant and she reaches out and grabs his dick, you've got to cut off her hand.
Okay, Deuteronomy is sounding pretty based. What else have you got?
Deus Vult. In Kings chapter 2, verse 23, God summoned magic bears to kill 42 children because they mocked someone for being bald.
I'll be honest, you've kind of lost me there. I think I need to keep going with this video.
Discedor et mentum amici.
Where were we? Okay, alright, yeah, so men being useless. So because men are useless, Sarah has to come up with a solution on her own, and she decides to put heaven on lockdown, even though, according to season 1, heaven was functionally already on lockdown. You can't just go to heaven. You need an angel to open a portal and bring you there. A huge problem with the stakes of this show is that hell apparently poses a serious threat to heaven. This was the case prior to the start of season 1, hence the need for the yearly exterminations. But you can only get into heaven under very specific circumstances. Season 1 gives the impression that heaven and hell are on separate planes of reality, and it is impossible to travel from one to the other via non-magical means. Season 2 is gonna change that in a pretty dramatic fashion, but regardless, you cannot just go from hell to heaven. This was confirmed as recently as the last fucking episode.
How would we, get up there?
Semantics, Val.
In spite of this, the angels are like, oh shit, we're all gonna die. Oh, I know, let's put heaven on lockdown so that no one can travel from hell to heaven. You fucking spoon, you solved the problem before you needed to, which then created a different problem that didn't need to be a problem. Emily is then like, holy shit, I need to call Charlie. So she opens a portal and tells Charlie everything, as we saw at the end of episode 1.
Be right back!
Wait! Please, can I see my friend?
Demonstrating quite clearly to Serpentius that he can see his friends. Emily could just portal him to hell, or at the very least she could open a portal to allow for them to see each other. Emily just doesn't fucking care, and this causes Serpentius to literally cry himself to sleep. Am I supposed to think that Emily is a Because I do. She's pretending to be Serpentius's best friend, but she doesn't realize that he is suicidal and that she could fix things by quite literally snapping her fingers. But anyway, everything is broken, world mechanics are more fucked than ever, and I want the villains to destroy everything. Time for episode 3. Episode 3 picks up where episodes 1 and 2 left off. Charlie's mind has just been blown wide open and she excitedly tells everyone that Serpentius is in heaven and that the hotel works. Again, just to reiterate, she knows that Serpentius died and she has been told that he is now in heaven, and this suggests that redemption is possible, but it doesn't actually prove anything. And even if Serpentius was indeed redeemed, then this is not evidence that the hotel works, because Charlie has no idea what the criteria for redemption are, or if her influence had anything to do with it. Because Charlie is a tremendously incompetent scatterbrained buffoon, she decides to voluntarily contact Vox Tech for an exclusive interview.
The fuck? Why would you do that?
Vox Tech are literally running ads calling Charlie a dictator. Vox, the CEO of Vox Tech, is in a business relationship with Angel Dust's abuser, and Vox Tech owns the evil news channel which pumps out evil propaganda around the clock. Charlie, however, would like to reveal publicly that redemption is possible, which is a thing that she cannot prove, so that all of hell knows this, hoping that they will come to the hotel so that she can redeem them as well.
This is a mad fucking plan.
Vaggie tells Charlie, yeah, okay, that sounds like a pretty good plan apart from the bit where it relies on fucking Vox, the guy who has repeatedly broadcast lies about you to ruin your life and career, giving you an honest and unbiased interview. Charlie's response to this astute observation is that, well, it's a big story, so big, in fact, that Vox will change his mind when he hears that redemption is possible, and everyone will hold hands and live happily ever after. Vox decides to personally accept the invitation, seeing it as the perfect opportunity to humiliate and discredit Charlie, thus furthering his goal of line go up. He shows up to conduct the interview, and he obviously asks questions intended to make Charlie look as bad as possible. This goes on for a while, and I'm not gonna go through every question he asks, because in every instance Charlie gives an idiot answer that accidentally makes her look as bad as possible, and so the rather predictable outcome of Charlie inviting the very obviously evil CEO of VoxTech to the hotel to give an exclusive interview is that Charlie comes out of it looking as bad as possible. Oh boy, who could have possibly seen this coming? She then claims that Sir Pentius has been redeemed. Redemption is possible, and the hotel works. Vox is like, holy shit, wow, that's amazing. Bring out Sir Pentius. Where is he? So that we can show the world. And Charlie is like, well, he's not here because he's in heaven. Showing that she doesn't appear to understand the concept of substantiating outlandish claims. This is particularly funny because Vivi Slop, being an atheist, does not believe in the resurrection of Christ, because she, I assume, believes that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and there is no sufficient evidence to prove that this happened. And yet, Charlie, the protagonist of her show, her obvious self-insert character, and a character whom she feels represents her because they share similar life experiences, makes an equally ridiculous claim with quite literally zero evidence without realizing that she has zero evidence, and without realizing that obviously people are going to expect evidence when you tell them something previously thought to be impossible has just happened.
I think that the art that Charlie goes in really mirrors my own experience being a female creator on the internet. Obviously, a very different context, but just having to kind of constantly feel defensive and have to justify yourself.
She's not officially like an ADHD character, but considering how much of me is in there, I'm pretty sure it's some form of ADHD. And I have ADHD. Having ADHD as a child.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for telling me. I certainly wouldn't have known otherwise. Charlie is, I think, meant to be naive, and presumably this is a reflection of Vivi Slop's own naivety in the past. But there is a big difference between being naive and being stupid. Vivi Slop has stated, writing Charlie this season was cathartic because I've never related more to her from my own personal experience. For the record, she's not in the right, but calling her stupid? I guess everyone just needs to wait for the rest of the season to decide. Which suggests that Charlie is meant to be naive rather than stupid, but she has written the character to repeatedly act in an indefensibly moronic manner, which means Vivi Slop is opening herself up to justifiably being called a fucking idiot. If you say, I wrote this character as a reflection of myself, and the character in question is objectively and obviously a mouth-breathing, window-licking oxygen thief, then I'm sorry, but you did this to yourself. You are opening yourself up to being called a mouth-breathing, window-licking oxygen thief. Speaking of, Charlie then decides to try and prove right here, right now, in front of Vox, that redemption is possible. She decides to do this without knowing that it can be done. Okay, fine, she believes Emily, so she believes that Sir Pentius is in heaven, but she has not seen this with her own eyes, nor does she know why Sir Pentius is in heaven. She cannot repeat the process, and yet she offers to perform the feat in front of Vox, an obviously bad actor, with zero prep time. Now, tell me, Vivi Slop, is this what a naive person would do? Or is this what a brain-dead fucking moron would do? It can be both, it is both, the two are not mutually exclusive, but if you just wanted Charlie to be innocent and a bit naive, then I think you may have taken things a little bit too far. For clarity, the show is very aware of all of this. The other characters point out multiple times that what Charlie does in this episode in particular is not a good idea. The problem is that Charlie is off-the-wall batshit insane in this episode. She quite literally does not do anything that makes sense. And the other characters are like, Charlie, are you sure about this? That doesn't sound like a good idea, Charlie. So anyway, Charlie has decided to redeem Angel Dust, which I will remind you, if successful, will result in him getting zapped into heaven and quite probably trying to kill himself shortly afterwards. Angel Dust wants nothing to do with this. He likes being in the hotel and he hates Vox, but because Charlie doesn't listen to anyone and she expects others to just obey her without question, Angel Dust is forced by the writers to be like, oh, okay, go on then. Pretty much the rest of the episode is Charlie trying to redeem Angel Dust, and things get weird. And by weird, I mean aggressively funny. Charlie begins by singing a song, of course, wherein she lists things that Angel Dust must do to be redeemed, even though she has no idea how one becomes redeemed. She lists a load of generic bullshit like dress modestly, feed the poor, and help old ladies across the street. And she then starts to panic when Angel Dust does all of the above and is not suddenly zapped into heaven. She then remembers exactly what happened just prior to Serpentius's death, where he saved a friend from certain demise, which again is not what fucking happened, but okay, fine, we can retcon that as well.
Do you ever worry that you're just going to forget something?
All the time.
And so she decides to try and manufacture a scenario whereby Angel Dust can perform an act of self-sacrifice, believing for some reason that self-sacrifice is what gets you into heaven. Charlie then dresses up like Waluigi for some reason, and there is now a goofy-ass cartoon death train roller coaster thingy going all over the hotel. I would attribute this to Alistair snapping his fingers, but Alistair is not here, so have months passed so that they could build this insane contraption?
I have no fucking idea.
Nifty is driving the train, not just any train, but a train with an angelic spear strapped to the front of it, and Charluigi has tied Husk to the tracks. Nifty agreeing to do this is fine, because Nifty is an unhinged lunatic, but I am not entirely convinced that Husk would let himself get tied to a train track, particularly given the fact that he freaks out later when Angel Dust puts himself in danger in order to save him, which is the entire reason why he is strapped to the train tracks. Angel Dust is like, Charlie, this is unbelievably stupid, and I'm like, oh really, you don't fucking say! And he refuses to partake in Charluigi's imbecilic theatrics. Charluigi has a failsafe button to stop the train in case things go wrong, which means that no one is in any real danger. But presumably all parties involved believe that this is real, otherwise, what the fuck are we doing? If Angel Dust and Husk think that this is performative, then this does not involve genuine self-sacrifice. But if Angel Dust does not know about the failsafe button, then this means he is letting Husk die.
What is happening?
Charluigi is like, okay, fine, I guess this isn't gonna work. She hits the stop button, but oh no! It turns out that dastardly Vox has removed the brakes from the train, which means now Husk is going to die. Upon being informed that the train does not have any brakes, Charluigi immediately goes to untie Husk herself, except that no.
Nifty, stop the train! Nifty!
How is Nifty going to stop the train if it doesn't have any brakes, you useless fucking bimbo? And only then does she tell Angel Dust that the brakes are cut and Husk is going to die, even though Angel Dust already thought that Husk was going to die. He leaps onto the tracks to save Husk, but he is too slow, and they are both rescued at the last moment by Vaggie. Then we get some contrived melodrama. Husk is pissed off with Angel Dust for nearly getting himself killed, instead of, oh, I don't fucking know, being pissed off with Charluigi for coming up with an idiot plan as dumb as this, or being pissed off with Vox for cutting the brakes. Had Husk or Angel Dust died here, it would have been Charluigi and Vox's fault. And so Husk and Angel Dust being pissed off with each other makes absolutely no sense, but it is what is required by the plot. In a later episode, Husk clarifies that he does not believe that he is worth saving, hence his anger. But if this is how Husk views himself, then he has no reason to let Charluigi tie him to the train tracks in a plan that relies on him being worth saving. Vox, meanwhile, is very happy because he filmed everything and this has made for some staggeringly good TV. Charluigi has utterly failed to redeem Angel Dust, which means it does not appear that redemption is possible. Charluigi then comes to the realization, somehow, that Serpentius was redeemed because he acted in a way that specifically redeemed him for his particular sins, which, aside from all of the problems, is broadly accurate. Serpentius was a coward and people died, so he decided to be brave to save people. Waluigi doesn't know this, but she appears to have guessed, and she therefore wants Angel Dust to do something to specifically redeem him from his past sins. But Angel Dust is like, oh hell no, we are not going there, and we are definitely not going there in front of Vox. Waluigi, being a who only cares about herself, is like, oh, but let's just do it anyway, because I'm right. Angel Dust still refuses to tell Charlie why he is in hell, before Vox reveals the truth. I'm actually going to let you guys guess. What horrible thing did Angel Dust do when he was alive that resulted in him being condemned to the infinite fiery pit? Angel Dust is clearly very uncomfortable about whatever he did, and Vox's dialogue suggests that it was something particularly heinous. Did he burn down a school? Was he a pedophile? Was he a drug kingpin? Well, the unspeakably evil Angel Dust is a murderer. Oh. I mean, murder's not cool, and you should end up in hell if you murder someone, but I guess I was expecting something a little more creative. Like, murderers have got to be pretty common in hell. This is hell. This place is full of the worst people imaginable, so it seems very slightly odd that Angel Dust being a murderer is given this level of gravitas. There is a literal town of cannibals in hell, and I just kind of assume that every character has killed someone or worse, given how common random acts of extreme violence seem to be in hell. But anyway, Vox continues that Valentino the Turbo Rapist told him that Angel Dust murdered his own father, and this causes Angel Dust to become extremely upset that his shameful past is now out in the open as a direct result of Waluigi inexplicably inviting Vox to the hotel, and subsequently forcing Angel Dust to do a whole load of insane nonsense for Vox's amusement. Vox may have revealed his shameful secret, but Waluigi forced Angel Dust into a highly uncomfortable situation where that information was obviously going to come out. Charlie simply doesn't care. She doesn't understand. She has known Angel Dust for months. She presumably knows him quite well, given how often they sit in a circle and talk about their feelings, and yet she was still, without a second thought, like, hey, you, tell me about the horrible evil thing that you did that got you sent into hell. Please, 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 tell me. Again, Charlie is depicted as being in the wrong here. The show does not think that this was good of her to do. But I shall repeat, there is a big difference between being naive and being this fucking stupid. In conclusion then, Charlie nearly got Husk killed. She gave Vox a metric arse ton of ammunition that he can use to discredit both her and the hotel. She is still no closer to understanding redemption, and she has destroyed her relationship with Angel Dust. Well, you would think that, but episode 4 forgets what happened in episode 3, and Angel Dust is just chilling in the hotel again because the writers gave him amnesia.
Do you ever worry that you're just going to forget something?
All the time.
Nothing seems to be going too well at the old Hazbin Hotel, and this is entirely as a result of Charlie's cosmic ineptitude and her inability to learn from her mistakes. Speaking of Charlie's cosmic ineptitude and her inability to learn from her mistakes, she decides to go for an interview with the evil news channel to try and clear up all the misinformation being spread by the guy who owns the evil news channel.
That's your plan. I fear it malformed.
Charlie does provide an explanation as to why she is doing something that makes absolutely no sense, which I guess is something. Her logic is that if she gives a live interview, then Vox will not be able to edit the footage. Which is true unless Vox uses evil TV magic, or if the interview has a broadcast delay. But regardless of Vox's ability to alter what Charlie actually says, Charlie is demonstrably useless when you stick a microphone in front of her. She babbles awkwardly about nonsense, lets herself be cut off, is unable to defend absurd accusations, and clearly has nothing even approximating PR training. She has to know that going for another live interview on the evil news channel will only make things worse. But she doesn't know this, because the script says Charlie is naive. Now I need to talk briefly about Nifty. Nifty is a demon child, and no, I'm not playing that game of, oh, don't you know, she's actually thousands of years old. Fuck off, she looks like a child and she acts like a child. The show hasn't stated otherwise, so Nifty is a child. In a show filled with unhinged, violent lunatics, Nifty is the most unhinged. Her job at the hotel is that of a cleaner or housekeeper, although when I say job, that isn't entirely accurate. This is slavery, because Nifty's soul is owned by Alistair, and Alistair summoned her to staff the hotel. Regardless, Nifty seems to enjoy being enslaved for reasons including but not limited to the fact that she likes cleaning up cum.
People barf and piss and cum on when they feel like it, tell it, clean it up.
This character is a child. Nifty is sadistic, she enjoys violence for the sake of violence, she has a BDSM fetish, she executed the defeated Adam because lol, stabbing isn't this quirky, and she is shown repeatedly to be incapable of doing what she is told or focusing on any particular task. In summary, Nifty is an agent of chaos. You cannot predict what she is going to do, but any sane individual would be able to make an educated guess. It is all but guaranteed that she is going to commit random acts of violence against whomever she likes, and she will generally make an unholy mess wherever she goes. So, naturally, Charlie decides to bring Nifty to the extremely important interview at the Evil News Channel.
Hi. Okay, have fun. Love you. Bye.
A decision that is so nonsensical that it obviously only happens because the plot requires that Nifty is at the Evil News Channel. There is no in-universe reason for her to be there, so the writers were like, I guess Charlie brings her or something. And the thing that makes this even fucking funnier is that there ends up being no narrative reason why Nifty has to be at the Evil News Channel. But when she is there, she sings a song, which means it appears that the writers knew that they wanted Nifty to get a musical number, so they had the songwriters create one that doesn't advance the plot in any way, and then they made Charlie do something that she has no reason to do in order to facilitate this.
All right, this is kind of what I think a song could be here, and here's like the purpose it serves, or like, oh, we really want this character to sing, so we're gonna find a kind of a way. Like, we don't ever force it in, but we sometimes are like, oh yeah, like this is a big, I don't know, Alistair episode. So yeah, it feels like appropriate for him to have a song in this. So you know what I mean? Nifty was one that was from 1 to 2 for sure. Like I was like, Nifty has to have a song. She needs to.
When we get a sense of how many songs we can write in a season, the hardest part of it is figuring out who gets to sing this season.
Is there a certain amount of songs that you're trying to hit? Or is it just however?
Yes. Well, and that's like a contractual thing.
Wait, what?
Like what? We need 10 songs.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, for season 2, we were contracted for 20 songs.
Right.
And so it was like, well, how do those 20 songs shake out? Like, what is needed for the plot explicitly? Like, what characters are needed to sing in this moment? And then if we have like 1 or 2 songs that we don't know where they fit, who would we love to have sing who hasn't sung yet?
Wait, I thought you said you don't force songs in.
You sit on a throne of lies.
If Charlie wanted to take someone to the interview, then the obvious and only choice is Vaggie, because Vaggie is the voice of reason who in every episode is like, Charlie, don't do that, that's really dumb, indicating that unlike everyone else, her head is screwed on properly. Vaggie would probably be quite good at pushing back against the Evil News Channel when they try to misrepresent Charlie. Conversely, Nifty is the worst choice, not just out of the characters present in the hotel, but out of the list of characters. In anything. The interview itself goes about as well as you might expect. Charlie accuses Vox of lying about what happened when he visited the hotel. For clarity, at the end of episode 3, Vox put out a heavily edited TV special that very obviously altered Charlie's words.
I lied. I'm dirty do-bad.
And fabricated accusations of assault.
Charlie coming at me with an open fist. She struck me.
Setting aside the fact that this is obviously edited, which means no one with an IQ higher than my fridge could reasonably believe this, Vox had absolutely no reason to fabricate anything, because Charlie's performance in episode 3 did the job for him. This means Vox captured extensive footage of Charlie and the hotel's unambiguous failure, and he still decided to fuck around with the footage and fabricate a claim that Charlie punched Velvet. Because Vox did this for no reason, Charlie is able to accuse Vox of lying. But Katie Killjoy distracts from these accusations by just saying random sex things.
He bent the truth.
I wish he'd banned me. Right in half. Tom laugh. Oh, ha, ha.
And because Charlie, once again, did not come prepared with any evidence to back up her claims, she is forced to sit there in front of an interviewer who works for Vox Like, Vox lied and he's really mean, I promise.
Charlie probably has the most to me because Charlie is a very idealistic woman in a very nasty, against her world, which I feel like is the experience of a lot of female showrunners. So I have that experience of just kind of being against a Goliath that is the industry and the internet. In this season, I put a bit of my own experience being a person online. A lot of this season was about Charlie dealing with like the spinning of her words and the like fact that people don't hear her out or that she feels misunderstood in her words and she thinks, oh, but just saying more will help.
This is seemingly Vivi Slop trying to write a story in which Charlie's experiences are a direct parallel of her own as an online celebrity. If true, Vivi Slop is as dumb as Charlie. Yes, Charlie is flawed in that she keeps trying to just say more in order to clear her name, which only makes things worse. But Charlie's flaw is not that she won't shut up. Her flaw is specifically that every time she opens her mouth, what comes out is a ghastly, nonsensical cocktail of an oxygen-starved brain and a screaming toddler. The problem isn't that she says, it is what she says.
There's a lot of Charlie and me, the determination and the stubbornness to do something that is hard.
Phrasing?
Anyway, then this happens.
The same angels that made it their whole thing for 7 years to kill as many of us as possible. What? The same angels that made it their whole thing for 7 years.
One more time?
For 7 years, 7 years, 7 years.
7.
7. 7.
Try 8. 8?
Okay, so I guess this means that when Lucifer was like,
In the last 10,000 years, you're the first one to change this time.
he was referring to something else? And he believes that 7 years ago, when the angels began exterminating everyone, this was not a change to this town? The commencement of yearly genocides was not considered by Lucifer to be a big deal? This is obviously a retcon. There is no other explanation. The question I am interested in, however, is why did the writers do this? This is just a theory, but it could have been a frantic patch job to fix some of the problems that became apparent in the last couple of episodes of Season 1. Namely, the fact that the angels accidentally made the only weapon that can kill them, the fact that the angels were unaware that this weapon can kill them, the fact that the angels routinely leave hundreds or maybe even thousands of these weapons in Hell after each extermination, and the fact that Hell had never used any of these weapons against an angel until Carmilla Carmine put one on her foot and chopped an angel's head off in the most recent extermination. If these exterminations had been going on for 10,000 years, then all of the above is show-breakingly absurd. If these exterminations have only been going on for 7 years, then this is still extremely silly, but it is more plausible that it could have taken 6 years and 6 exterminations before anyone figured out how to harm an angel. However, changing the number from 10,000 down to 7 creates other problems. It is revealed later in the season that thousands of sinners were killed in each extermination.
Do you know how many sinners died in each extermination? Thousands.
Let's do the show as many favors as possible by highballing all of the numbers. We can assume that thousands means 20,000, as any higher would reasonably be described as tens of thousands. 20,000 sinners killed every year for 7 years is a total of 140,000 sinners killed in total. Season 1 told us that 16% of the population had been killed in the most recent extermination.
We have assessed that about 16% of the population was lost.
Which means if 20,000 sinners were killed each year, and if that constituted 16% of the population, then the total population of Hell is approximately 125,000 people at any given time, making Hell approximately 20% the size of Wyoming, which is the least populous state in the USA. For those of you in the UK, Hell has a comparable population to Exeter in Devon. That sounds low, and it is low, but I need to be clear about how low this is. Vox stated in episode 1,
Once we get up there, 100 billion souls await our every command.
Again, I am going to do the show a favor and assume that this 100 billion refers to the total population of heaven and hell, because once Vox takes over heaven, he will rule both. This number seems to be approximately correct because the total number of humans who have ever died is estimated to be around 110 billion. The fundamental premise of Hazbin Hotel relies on the population of hell spiraling out of control, and the angels are worried about being overwhelmed. And we are explicitly told later in the season that hell vastly outnumbers heaven.
Don't forget, there are a lot more of us than there are of you.
Therefore, if the total population is 100 billion, then I think it is entirely reasonable to assume that at a minimum, the population of hell accounts for approximately 70 billion souls. 70 billion is quite a lot more than 125,000. It is in fact 560,000 times more. 125,000 to 70 billion is an increase of 56 million%.
I'm not good at it.
I know.
125,000 is 0.0001% of 70 billion. This is using the most generous numbers that I think are reasonable, and the show cannot even be consistent with itself to the tune of 0.0001%. And this is after the writers did the patch job retcon of turning 10,000 years of exterminations into 7, thereby cutting the time frame down by 99.93%. Which means the writers moved the fucking goalposts and they still missed. You may be thinking, but random, okay fine, the numbers are a bit wrong, but who fucking cares? No, I care. Being wrong to this degree is on par with claiming that the Earth is 6,000 years old, something that Vivislop would obviously scoff at. The numbers are inaccurate to an obscene degree, and I find this level of incompetence fascinating to behold. But that's enough numbers for now. This is hilariously broken and clearly hasn't been even remotely thought through. They simply thought the line 100 billion sounds cool, and they minimized the number of people that the angels killed so as to make them slightly less monstrous, and this is the result. Rather amusingly, that song from episode 1, Once We Get Up There, has created rather a lot of problems. Because it references an unholy trinity, it names heaven as the kingdom of God, and it informs us that there are 100 billion souls in the afterlife. Vivislop was not directly involved in the creation of the soundtrack. She gave the songwriters an overview of what narrative or character information needed to be contained within each song, but the actual lyrics of the song were all written by the songwriters, which means they included the explicit references to the Kingdom of God, the Unholy Trinity, and 100 billion souls, presumably because they didn't know that this would cause problems. The lyrics sound good in context with the song, and these guys are musicians, songwriters, and lyricists. It is not their job to make sure that the lyrics perfectly match the world building from elsewhere in the show. That is the job of the showrunner, which means, as far as I can tell, Vivislop read the lyrics to this song and was like, yeah, I can't see any problems with this, okay, let's move on to the next one. Now, back to Charlie's interview on the Evil News channel. We then get another highly amusing clarification.
What? Don't compare me to Hitler!
Well, bless my bunghole. The Mustache Man is now canonical in Hazbin Hotel. In case you are unaware, Hitler did some pretty bad stuff. In the show, he presumably ended up in hell as a result, and he is evidently infamous in hell as being a special case of, oh my god, please don't compare me to Hitler. This means that Hitler is very well known in hell. This appears to be comparable to how well known he is in real life, because Hazbin Hotel is trying to do that social commentary thing where someone on the internet exaggerates and accuses the person they don't like of being a
Nazi!
The problem is that, once again, Vivislop has not considered the ramifications of this. If Hitler was as evil as he was in real life, and if he was so evil that he was well known by the people of hell as a particularly evil person, then it is reasonable to assume that Hitler would be one of the overlords of hell. If people like Alistair and Vox can become overlords by killing a handful of people, then it is perfectly reasonable to assume that starting a war that led to the deaths of 80 million people and holocausting 11 million more would result in that individual becoming notorious, prolific, and powerful after they died and went to hell. And it sounds like that is exactly what happened, because Charlie and the mean people on the internet know who Hitler is to the degree where they will casually invoke his name as a means of insulting each other. Which brings me to the million-pound question. Where, oh where, is Adolf Hitler? Because he's not in hell. If he was, we would know. He can't be in heaven, because if he was, then his name wouldn't be invoked in this manner by the sinners. Not to mention the fact that putting Hitler in heaven is way too edgy for Hazbin Hotel. So this leaves one option. Hitler was in hell, and he was killed by Adam during one of the yearly exterminations. The most reasonable interpretation here seems to be that Adam, the antagonist of Season 1, the character that the writers went out of their way to demonize by portraying him as a misogynistic caricature of toxic masculinity, the character whose morals the writers obviously fucking despise, that guy was responsible for perma-killing Adolf Hitler. There is no way that the writers considered this when they wrote their stupid joke about, oh, don't compare me to Hitler, because this does exactly what they are trying to avoid. It makes the yearly genocides look reasonable. Anyway, Charlie has now run out of options, so she's like, Nifty, can you tell everyone about how amazing the hotel is? Because Nifty is insane, she starts singing a song about how much she enjoys cleaning up jizz, urine, and vomit.
I don't particularly love, toilet humor. I also just watched the Sausage Party animated show because I was a massive fan of the original movie. I saw it way too many times in theaters. I saw it an inhuman amount in theaters, I think 6 times.
Every word of what you just said was retarded.
She claims to like the hotel precisely because it is absolutely filthy, and she likes taking things that are disgusting and making them clean. This doesn't seem to make much sense because she clearly likes being near or in bodily fluids, and once you clean these fluids up, then they are gone. So characterizing her as an OCD clean freak seems to be a little at odds with her fetishistic obsession with filth. She then starts singing in Japanese because lol's so random, and the lyrics that no one can understand tell us that Nifty truly believes in Charlie and the hotel, which suggests that she understands what Charlie is trying to do. Which means she isn't a deranged psychopath, she just chooses to, fuck it, this character can't be understood. The writers just make her do shit and hope that we laugh at her instead of using our brains. The outcome is that Nifty does a terrible job of recovering the interview because of course she fucking does. On the more positive side, however, at least she didn't burn the building down or anything. Which means Charlie did something she had no reason to do. It went badly wrong because of course it did. And so once again, she has made her problem worse. I swear every character in every scene is a fucking moron. Charlie, the interviewer, the members of the public watching the interview, Nifty, no one acts like a person. They all act like single-celled organisms being puppeteered by the writers. They have to act and respond in a certain way to suit the needs of the scene, and so, once again, this scene fails to lampoon fake news, misinformation, and the dangers of accepting everything at face value on social media. While Charlie is doing her best to accidentally ruin her life, Alistair decides to quit the hotel. The reason he has been here since the start of the show is that he finds personal enjoyment in watching Charlie try and fail to rehabilitate people, but evidently he has had enough. He has done quite literally nothing since the finale of Season 1, where he was injured by Adam, and this makes it pretty clear that his presence is not needed for the hotel to operate. Alistair leaves, and obviously he takes Husk and Nifty with him because he owns their souls, except that no he doesn't. For now, I will let this slide because Alistair has been depicted throughout the show as a conniving mastermind who is obviously up to something, so I am going to assume that him quitting the hotel and leaving Husk and Nifty there is part of his plan. We will get back to this when it is revealed that this was not part of his plan. Alistair heads to Cannibal Town to visit Rosie, and he tells her that he has quit the hotel because he is bored and he sees no reason to stay. It is then revealed that Rosie, of all people, owns Alistair's soul.
What a twist!
He made a deal with her to become the most powerful demon in hell, which means Rosie, who until now was the overlord in charge of Cannibal Town, is significantly more powerful than Alistair. He is not happy that he was nearly killed by Adam in spite of the fact that he sold his soul in exchange for power.
But I also thought our little deal meant that I was the strongest sinner in all of hell. Yet here I am with the scars and a busted up staff that proves otherwise.
No, this doesn't prove otherwise. This demonstrates that the most powerful demon in hell is less powerful than Adam, who is not a demon, and so there is no contradiction. Like, I get that Alistair is pissed off that he made a deal to become really powerful and yet he still wasn't powerful enough to defeat an angel, but that was never a condition of their arrangement. And rather surprisingly, the writers are aware of this, because Rosie replies,
You really thought being the most powerful sinner, which you are, meant you could take on an archangel?
Which means the only interpretation here is that Alistair is a fucking idiot. I want to be the most powerful crab in the world. Oh, boo-hoo, I couldn't defeat an 18-wheeler. What the fuck were you expecting? You're a crab. Rosie then tells Alistair his own backstory, because we need to hear it, apparently. Alistair was a mixed-race gentleman who lived in New Orleans in the 1930s, and don't worry, he didn't encounter any of the problems you might expect a mixed-race gentleman to encounter in New Orleans in the 1930s. Although, that said, if he had encountered a certain group with certain beliefs, then many lives would have been saved. Vivislop, I am not supposed to be watching the backstory for one of your characters and hoping that the fucking clan rolls up to lynch him. Anyway, Alistair achieved his dream of becoming a radio host, but he was also secretly a serial killer. He does a spooky demon ritual, like literally full-on drawing a giant blood pentagram on the floor and reciting evil magic words, while standing in front of an altar filled with the bones of his victims. And this puts him in contact with Rosie, who at this point is already an overlord of hell, and they make a deal. Alistair knows that because he is a serial killer, he is going to go to hell when he dies, because presumably he is also a devout Christian who believes in the literal heaven and hell, and he tells Rosie that he doesn't want to just be another tortured soul.
I want to secure myself amongst the highest demons.
Rosie promises that he will be the most powerful sinner in hell, but that he must do something for her, and until he does, his soul will belong to her. Alistair, being a grade A tard goblin, accepts the deal immediately without asking what Rosie wants him to do. The very next day, Alistair is mistaken for a deer and he gets shot in the head by a hunter, hence all of the deer-related imagery that we see relating to Alistair when he appears as a demon in hell. This means that the show has confirmed that magic exists on Earth. You can literally communicate with demons if you know how to do it. Which leads me neatly into, how in the fucking goddamn hell does a radio host in New Orleans in the 1930s know how to summon demons? Alistair seems to know not only that demons exist and how power hierarchies work in hell, but he also knows how to communicate with them. Did he read about this in a spooky book somewhere? Did he just make it up and it happened to work? Has this happened before? The answers we get are fuck and you. Just don't think about it. Alistair's backstory is that he was an evil wizard who can summon demons. End of sentence. In summary then, this scene reveals that Rosie is the reason why Alistair was absent for 7 years prior to the start of Season 1, and Rosie is the reason why Alistair was at the hotel to begin with. Why Rosie wanted any of this is still unknown, and so we must wait for Season 3, which means although the writers have clarified that it is Rosie, not Alistair, who wants all this, this is little more than kicking the can down the road. We have no idea what Rosie is trying to do, nor do we know what she wants Alistair to do. Alistair doesn't like being under Rosie's thumb, so he comes up with a plan. This plan is fucking insane, and it takes the remainder of the season to play out. But step 1 is that Alistair deliberately baits Vox into a fight, and he loses. During this fight, Husk and Nifty show up to help because their souls are owned by Alistair, and they do battle with Velvet and Valentino the Turbo Rapist. For some reason, neither Husk nor Nifty bring any of the angelic weapons they used in Season 1, because if they had, all 3 of the Vs would be dead and the story would be over. Alistair then makes a deal with Vox, which he could have just done immediately instead of fighting him, but I guess we needed to kill 5 minutes in a TV show. The deal is that Alistair will willingly be Vox's prisoner, and in exchange, Vox will not lay his hands on Charlie. Vox is like, well, that deal sounds way too good to be true, and you are a demon who frequently makes deals that fuck people over. Sold, my good man. Where do I sign?
You goddamn moron.
After Vox accepts the deal, this causes line to go up, which means Vox is getting closer to achieving his ultimate goal. This chunk of the season is a massive waste of time, not because it's bad, because it's all bad, but because there really is nothing to say about it. Pretty much everything I just described happens in the first half of episode 4. The latter half is a prolonged and pointless fight scene followed by a prolonged sequence of Vox celebrating having captured Alistair, followed by a flashback showing that Alistair was a dick to Vox that one time when they were younger, followed by Vox singing a song about how he won. Episode 5, naturally, opens with the people of Hell singing a song about how Alistair has been captured, and I'm like, for fuck's sake, can we please continue with the story? During this song, however, we do get an amusing joke that the writers are too pussy to follow through on, and this reveals where the line is with regard to what they think is okay to joke about. Vox is seen going around Hell and telling everyone about how awesome it will be when they take over heaven, and one person he visits is Carmilla Carmine.
Are you serious?
Yeah, okay.
And this happens again at the end of the song.
Cha-cha-cha! Stop it!
The joke is that Carmilla is Hispanic, apparently, I honestly couldn't tell, and because Vox is an asshole, he's like, oh okay, Hispanic equals maracas and a sombrero. He is deliberately being disrespectful because he doesn't care about being nice to her. He is just having some fun, maybe he really likes maracas, and maybe he thought that Carmilla would be more receptive if he spoke to her in taco speak. All of this is entirely appropriate given his characterization elsewhere, however, the writers chickened out because although the story takes place in Hell, although Vox is meant to be an evil, morally bankrupt, power-hungry overlord, and although Hell is meant to be filled with the worst people imaginable, cultural appropriation is a step too far. We can't possibly depict an evil character wearing a Mexican skin suit for 2 seconds in the name of comedy. Even though we constantly depict both good and evil characters wearing Christian skin suits throughout the show in the name of direct social commentary and ostensible thematic exploration. But okay, fine. If the writers honestly think that wearing a Christian skin suit is okay, but doing the same thing with Hispanics is a step too far, even for a man who used to be a serial-killing cult leader and is now the most powerful demon in Hell, then don't make the fucking joke. Instead, the writers make the joke, and then they have Vox be like, oh, whoops, yeah, that was actually a little bit too far, even for me. Before Velvet and Valentino the Turbo Rapist, whom, need I remind you, is a turbo rapist, be like, no, don't make the Mexicans feel bad, you'll get us cancelled. What do I keep telling you? Turbo rape is fine, but don't you dare stereotype an entire pan-ethnic demographic, which means the writers are quite literally injecting their own sense of right and wrong into their irredeemable villains.
Yeah, he's more like of a comedic, like, we treat him like the trophy wife that has no brain, you know? Like, he's pretty and that's it.
What do you mean Valentino is funny? Did you fucking watch season 1? I hate to keep repeating this, but he is a turbo rapist, not a goofy goober that we are meant to laugh at. And this is particularly amusing to me because it is another example of them being unwilling to honestly depict hell or to explore the nature of good and evil. The show pretends to be edgy, but it is incredibly safe in its sharpening of that edge. This is edginess with the fucking safety wheels still on. And this is why there are no characters who are just straight up pedophiles or racists anywhere in the show. This is very reminiscent of many characters in The Boys, but specifically Stormfront, who is a literal honest-to-God Nazi. But the writers were evidently uncomfortable with what that word actually means, so, rather hilariously, the worst thing to come out of Stormfront's mouth in that entire show is when she kills an Asian man and she's like, you're yellow.
I am a massive fan of The Boys. It's just, I mean, like, the tone, like, is this raunchy, super, like, violent, vulgar, like, cursing as much as my show. Like, I love it. And the characters are amazing, and also just
just the story, like everything
story is
about
so
it. Like
good.
I could gush over it forever.
And the world building in The Boys is similar, where like the way that they introduce the world over the course of the seasons and bit by bit.
One day, Vivi Slop will surprise me. But it is not this day. The Boys and Hazbin Hotel are the definition of safe edgy. They want the audience to feel as though they are watching something a bit spicy and naughty while they are safely strapped in to ensure that they don't encounter anything remotely triggering or genuinely challenging. The sole exception to this so far in Hazbin Hotel is the Angel Dust arc in episodes 3 and 4 of season 1, which did flirt with the idea of earnestly portraying sexual abuse, but as I already covered, the rest of the season does its level best to undermine that, which means if we take the show as a whole, there is never a moment that lands properly in which the audience can be like, oh wow, I'm kind of surprised we went there. This show just gave me something different and worth thinking about. It challenged me and made me uncomfortable. Because that is obviously not the goal of Hazbin Hotel. Meanwhile, Charlie is frantically trying to contact Emily, having, after 4 episodes of making incredible claims with zero evidence, realized that she needs to prove that what she is saying is true in order to stop Vox. The logic, if we can call it logic, is that if she can demonstrate to the people of Hell that Serpentius is in heaven and was redeemed, then this will cause Vox to lose his power because line will no longer go up. Maybe line will go down, I don't know. So, okay, let's set aside Vox's tendency to misrepresent Charlie and twist the truth into a lie that helps him. Let's assume that Charlie is able to prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Serpentius is in heaven, redemption is possible, and the hotel works. What does that accomplish? Well, if the writers had balls, then they would have depicted hell as hell. Eternal fire, damnation, unimaginable suffering, all that good stuff. There would be no question. Obviously, an amount of sinners would love to take the opportunity to become better people so as to escape from their torment. And if this were the case, then Charlie's logic would be sound. Because the writers do not have balls, I don't think, I'm legally required to state that it is my honest belief that Vivian Madrano probably does not have testicles, they have decided to depict hell as not all that bad. Yeah, there is a town of cannibals, but these are happy, nice cannibals, and yes, there is a lot of murder, but according to Vivi Slop's fucking Q&A video, this isn't actually murder because they're just gonna respawn. And yes, the people in charge are not very nice, but at least they won't misgender you or use racist slurs. This is not hell. This is a comfy, safe, subversive interpretation of hell, which means it comes across like a fantastical, crime-ridden city. And in a crime-ridden city, yes, there are going to be some people who just want to get out, although now that I think about it, I can't actually name a single character in Hazbin Hotel who would prefer to be in heaven. But there are also going to be a lot of people who want to climb the ladder and become wealthy and or powerful. Therefore, providing the people of Hell with a means of entering heaven doesn't actually mean very much at all. Vaggie, meanwhile, decides to visit Lucifer to ask for a favor because Vox has been spreading misinformation about Charlie and the hotel for weeks.
So, you think you could go over and, I don't know, smite him or something?
Not a bad idea, all things considered. Lucifer is the king of hell, in spite of the fact that he is a pathetic, spineless clown. So yeah, just go over there and turn Vox inside out and problem solved. The writers obviously can't let this happen, because if Lucifer can just insta-kill the primary antagonist of the season, then the stakes will be undermined even more than they already are. So, they need a reason for Lucifer to be unable or unwilling to stop Vox. This is essentially the Superman problem. If Superman is infinitely powerful, then he can just kill Lex Luthor as easily as swatting a fly, which means the writers of any given Superman story need a reason for him to not do that, and it could be as simple as his sense of morality, it could be leverage via blackmail, it could be that he doesn't know where Lex Luthor is. There are many possibilities. So, what justification do the writers of Hazbin Hotel have up their wizard sleeves to prevent Lucifer from just ending the story right fucking now?
I cannot smite him. No, it's kind of part of the whole hell thing. You see, it isn't just a place, it's a punishment. And mine is that I'm stuck here with all these sinners, can't kill them, can't do nothing with them, so I just have to ignore them.
It's so fucking dumb. Okay, they've just established that Lucifer is magically prevented from harming sinners. There is a part of this that I like, a small part, but I've got to take what I can get with this show. The reason Lucifer is in hell is because he is being punished for trying to share free will with humanity and accidentally making them evil because Lucifer didn't do nothing wrong. This somehow resulted in the creation of hell because the show describes hell as the dark pit he had created. And Lucifer is subsequently imprisoned there and prevented from seeing the good that came from humanity, instead being forced to live among the cruel and wicked. If this is a punishment for Lucifer, then it makes an amount of sense for the angels to make him incapable of harming sinners, because if he could just laser blast them, then this wouldn't be much of an eternal torment, provided, of course, we set aside the supposed fact that sinners respawn. So what exactly is the problem here? A minor problem is that I have no idea how the angels stripped Lucifer of his powers, given that he is also an angel, but okay, fine, they just magicked him and now he's firing blanks. The much larger problem, however, is this. The only time we have seen Lucifer in action was in the finale of Season 1.
Now, I am going to fuck you! You're in my house, bitch!
So in her infinite wisdom, Vivislop decided that the angels would want to punish Lucifer by casting him into hell. They made him incapable of harming sinners, which means they have the ability to take his powers away. However, they didn't restrict his ability to harm angels, even though they seemingly could have, which means they didn't understand the blindingly obvious fact that Lucifer might potentially have 1 or 2 reasons to be pissed off with them. Lucifer could have been battling the angels for 7 years. He could have been protecting hell from the yearly genocides and foiling their benevolent plans at every turn. He didn't because he's a cuck, but that's not the point. The angels put an incredibly powerful fallen angel in hell. They specifically made him unable to harm sinners, but they did not make him unable to harm angels. And this directly resulted in the death of Adam.
It's not going to feel like we made it up as we went.
Personally, I think you're a fucking idiot.
This is so monumentally stupid, and the only reason this happens is because the writers had Lucifer crack open a can of whoop-ass in Season 1, and then they realized, wait, if he can just do that, then surely he could just immediately solve every problem in every season of this show. So when the time came to explain why he doesn't do that to Vox in Season 2, they couldn't come up with anything that doesn't make the angels look like a hive mind that all share the same singular fucking brain cell. When I pull things out of my arse, Vivislop, they aren't as shit as this. And I know this sounds impossible to accept, but you're gonna have to trust me on this. The angels forgetting to make Lucifer incapable of harming them is not the dumbest thing they do in this episode. Not by a long shot. Then we cut back to heaven for the first time since episode 2. Emily is still profoundly irritating, Abel is still a gormless moron, and Lute still didn't do anything wrong. Sarah is preventing Emily from contacting Charlie because she is afraid of any further contact with Hell.
You're afraid, aren't you? You know we owe Hell a massive apology.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of underselling it, but you're not wrong. That's kind of like saying that Hitler owed the Jews an apology. Like, it's true, but it's such a massive understatement that it becomes farcical. Speaking of farcical, Emily's coked up infantile noggin works overtime and comes up with...
My vote is that we should apologize. Maybe with some gift basket?
And then the discussion moves on to what they should put inside the gift baskets. Yes, we are really doing this. The angels are cataclysmically unintelligent. Sarah is like, I don't know, this doesn't seem like a good idea. The demons won't be likely to accept what we say after what we've done, which is a counter-argument, but it's not the one I would have made. But figuring that they have no other options, the angels decide to portal themselves down to hell with some gift baskets so that they can apologize. Once again, they do not bring Serpentius with them because this would of course break the story.
The snake is fine. He misses you all. I'm sorry we can't bring him.
Why? They just can't. Okay, that's all we get. Also, this is a portal conjured by an angel, which means presumably that Lucifer could have portaled Charlie into heaven to see Serpentius, but he just doesn't. We're not going to talk about that. The angels show up in hell, and Charlie asks them to tell everyone that Serpentius is in heaven and that Vox is full of shit. Vox is currently doing a Donald Trump rally in front of a giant crowd, and oh my god, this can't possibly go wrong. So Donald Vox has managed to become the most popular person in hell by brainwashing the population via his total control over the media. I've got to be honest, that doesn't really sound like a Donald Trump thing. Donald Trump doesn't have control over the media, and the vast majority of media outlets seem to despise him. If anything, he rose to popularity in spite of mainstream media, not because of it. But before we jump ahead, why am I even mentioning Donald Trump? I like to keep politics out of my videos as much as possible, so why have I allowed the dreadful orange boy into my analysis of Season 2 of Hazbin Hotel, of all things? The rally begins and Donald Vox is like,
Good morning, Night City!
Wait, no, sorry, he's like,
Hello, Pentagram City!
And he immediately begins riling up his followers to overturn the election results, I mean to rise up against heaven. Then Lucifer shows up, having been convinced by Vaggie to shit on Vox's head to protect Charlie. He sings a song about how he is going to shit on Vox's head, although he is, of course, bluffing, because as we just learned, he cannot harm sinners. Donald Vox is not scared of Lucifer, and he retakes control of the stage.
We can make hell great again!
No, let's add shit to the piss. Let's pour it in his mouth.
I'm a big blender person. Like, I just take all these things and throw them in the blender and hope it works.
Words fall from your mouth as shit from ass.
Anyway, Donald Vox baits Lucifer into smiting him. Lucifer, of course, cannot, and so he is revealed in front of everyone to be impotent. It is revealed later that Donald Vox knew that Lucifer was incapable of harming him, although I'll hold off on revealing how, because that one is a double-decker doozy of drivel. Charlie, Sarah, Emily, Abel, and for some reason Loot is here as well, all jump out of a portal, and Donald Vox is like, oh no, they're here to silence me. And because the angels are, this cannot be overstated, fucking retarded, they give Donald Vox the best possible ammunition to use against them.
We're here to apologize!
We are sorry.
Donald Vox can't believe his luck, and so he starts to play into the abject madness unraveling in front of him, and he asks why they are apologizing.
For allowing the extermination of your people.
Allowing? Allowing? You fucking ordered it! Like, not you personally, Sarah did that, but the angels are responsible for this. The genocide isn't something that just kinda happened and they sat back and watched. This was something they did to hell, and everyone knows this. Again, Emily is like 8 or whatever, so maybe she is this naive, but Sarah's presence here backs her up. Hello, Juden, I'm very sorry about letting the Holocaust happen, yeah. That's what this sounds like, and yes, I know that the show is once again fully aware that this apology with the gift baskets is insufficient, but it doesn't remotely understand the extent to which it is insufficient.
You are apologizing for genocide with gift baskets?
That any character involved could believe for a moment that a fucking cake would be an acceptable apology for slaughtering tens of thousands of people is self-evidently absurd. And this is made even worse by the fact that this apology gift is being presented by the Seraphim, who have existed since the dawn of time, which one would think would result in a higher than average level of intellect. But because of how indefensibly, indescribably, and impossibly stupid the angels are, it means Donald Vox is right. He immediately weaponizes their incompetence by riling up the crowd even further, saying, quite rightly, that the angels believe their lives to be equal to a gift basket, and both Donald Vox and the adoring masses unambiguously refuse to accept the apology. So, if you hadn't noticed, the writers have created an extremely clever allegory for Donald Trump. He is an egotist cheating his way into power by spreading lies about his opposition. Whilst Vox has absolutely spread falsehoods about Charlie and the hotel, everything he does in this scene is entirely reasonable, rational, and correct. He is in a battle of wits against Lucifer, and although the show clearly wants us to be on Lucifer's side, everything Donald Vox says about him is true. He doesn't lie, he doesn't misrepresent, he doesn't even exaggerate. Lucifer is a pathetic, cowardly, selfish doormat. He lets the yearly genocides happen, and he does nothing to stop them, despite being shown to be capable of doing so. He ignores the problem he created by isolating himself and playing with rubber ducks. And the only reason he is getting involved now is because he is exceedingly vain and insecure, wishing to prove that he is more competent than Alistair.
Well, I'd ask Alistair, but
I can handle any problem 500 times better than that dumb red loudspeaker, okay?
As soon as Donald Vox reveals him to be incompetent, Lucifer just leaves, like the coward he is. Conversely, Donald Vox is actually trying to lead the purportedly innocent people of hell in a crusade against the unjust oppression of the angels. He is a freedom fighter against a genocidal superpower that the show itself has condemned. Which means, rather than portraying Donald Vox as a scheming madman who bends the truth to manipulate others so that he can benefit, the show is instead portraying Donald Vox as an underdog doing the right thing with the genuine support of the people. This episode in particular tries to draw a parallel between Vox and Donald Trump, the goal being that because Vox is the villain, they can be like, hey, look, does this guy remind you of anyone? Nudge, nudge, see, he's just like the Orange Man. But the result, which I find fucking funny, is that the writers of Hazbin Hotel's staggering incompetence has resulted in them instead portraying Donald Trump's political opponents as being inbred, mentally deficient, battery-licking chuckle fucks. Hazbin Hotel is far more a denigration of the ineptitude of those who oppose Donald Trump than it is a disparagement of Donald Trump himself.
I'm not.
But maybe Vivi Slop is actually a Donald Trump fan. I can't even say that while keeping a straight face. Obviously she isn't, and you can tell purely based on the content of her show. Season 2 of Hazbin Hotel was written before Donald Trump was re-elected in 2024. One day after Donald Trump was re-elected, Vivi Slop deleted her Twitter and moved to Blue Sky, where she then posted, "Season 2 of Hazbin has just become increasingly more topical, and it pisses me off because that's not why we wrote it how we did. We wrote a season about a demonic manipulator wanting to gain power and control, and whoops, one got fucking elected. Guess it's relevant now. Neat. Like writing a cartoon villain to be the worst guy ever, but then it's just real life. This is mostly because when it comes out and some shit hits a little too fucking close, I want you all to know that we wrote this shit 2 to 3 years ago, and we did not think it would be this real right now." So yeah, if it wasn't blindingly obvious from the content of the show itself, the showrunner herself considers Vox to be a Donald Trump allegory. Anyway, Sarah silences the crowd by using her terrifying angel powers.
Sinners like you are the reason I allowed for the extermination in the first place.
What the fuck are you doing?
She just straight up admits why she sanctioned the exterminations, which then means Donald Vox is able to be like, see, she literally just admitted what I just told you. I'm right, the angels are evil, we are the underdogs, let's get 'em. But then it gets worse. 'Cause I'm the Führer! No, stop it, Vivi Slop. You don't understand what your idiot brain is making you do. You can't draw a direct comparison between Vox and Adolf Hitler if the scene in question depicts Vox as being absolutely, objectively, and unambiguously correct in everything that he says. Although the visuals want to suggest otherwise, Vox's minions have been brainwashed by the truth. Which means if we actually think about this Hitler parallel, rather than being like, oh, he's like Hitler, that means he's bad, Hazbin Hotel appears to be suggesting that Hitler brainwashed his followers by revealing the truth. No. Because the writers are catastrophically incapable of handling, well, honestly, they're incapable of handling a fucking Furby, but they are definitely incapable of handling social commentary. In their efforts to insist that their villain is some kind of Donald Trump Adolf Hitler chimera, a Dondolf Trumpler, if you will, this has resulted in the show suggesting that Hitler was right about the Jews. I'm actually kind of speechless. I did not think it was possible to be this bad at your job. The angels then realize that they fucked up and they leave because Dondolf Trumpelvox has declared war on them. I will remind you that Dondolf Trumpelvox has no means of physically reaching heaven, but those are this just annoying details or something. Charlie is pissed off with Lucifer because she learned that he threatened Dondolf Trumpelvox, so she yells at him and tells him to leave the hotel. And, I mean, yeah, Lucifer did kind of cock things up because he's a moron, but the damage Lucifer did to Charlie's cause pales in comparison to the fucking seraphim showing up like, hello, sorry about the whole genociding thing, don't worry though, have some cake. Which means Charlie should be many times more pissed off with Emily than she is with Lucifer. Don't worry though, because the show forgets this by the end of the episode, as it is prone to do.
Do you ever worry that you're just gonna forget something?
I'm out spaghetti.
This leads into Vaggie asserting that Charlie's behavior is harming the hotel because she is playing Dondolf Trumpelvox's game. Her repeatedly giving interviews is just allowing him to bend the hotel over and do unspeakable things to the back door. And this then gives us a mid-season falling out between Charlie and Vaggie because I guess we need a second act low point to accompany the second act low point.
Vox was able to spin it. Again!
That's what Vox does.
Earlier in the season, Dondolf Trumpelvox was indeed spinning things, as Vaggie claims. He was literally cutting up sentences to make it look like people said things that they never said, and he had the evil news channel ask heavily biased questions to make Charlie look as bad as possible. What happened just now at the rally, however, was not Dondolf Trumpelvox spinning things to suit his narrative. He was just correct. I'm sorry that he was correct. I didn't write the show. But that's what happened. And honestly, I want Dondolf Trumpelvox to win. The angels are too stupid to be left alive. Episode 6 is almost entirely a waste of time. There is maybe 5 minutes of relevant plot and character stuff in here, the rest is melodrama that is resolved almost immediately, conversations that go nowhere, and side quests that are unrelated to the main story and include 2 separate musical numbers. Voxeld Trumpler tries to convince Carmilla Carmine to join his cause. He doesn't use maracas and a sombrero this time, because Voxeld Trumpler has learned that cultural appropriation is no bueno. In case you had forgotten, Carmilla Carmine is an arms dealer, hence why Voxeld Trumpler wants her on his side, and yet, rather confusingly, she is also some variety of pacifist.
I have no interest in engaging in this war.
She doesn't seem to care that the angels are and have been trying to kill them for 7 years, and she seems to have forgotten that the reason the angels are on their ass now is because she gave Charlie the means to fight back, which led to the death of Adam.
See, you sit up here in your creepy factory thinking you're above this war, when really, you're the one who started it.
Once again, Voxeld Trumpler is absolutely correct. Carmilla joined the fight when she gave a truckload of angelic weapons to Charlie so that Charlie could use them to kill angels. Yes, it was self-defense, mostly, but that doesn't mean she has no blood on her hands. Voxeld Trumpler being able to convince Carmilla to join him is pretty important. It ends up being crucial, because we are led to believe that she is the only source of angelic steel in hell. And without angelic steel, even if Voxeld Trumpler was able to get into heaven, he would be unable to harm any of the angels. Therefore, he either needs her support, or he needs to attack her so as to steal her cache of angelic weaponry. She eventually realizes that she doesn't really have a choice because the angels will come after her for supplying the weapon that killed Adam. This doesn't really make sense, however, because the angels somehow didn't know who Voxeld Trumpler was.
What's a Vox?
Even though he is the most powerful overlord in hell. So no way in hell are they going to know who Carmilla Carmine is. But she is apparently convinced that to protect her daughters, she must help Voxeld Trumpler. And so she agrees to build him the weapon. Just you fucking wait until you see this weapon. Later, Charlie and Vaggie visit Carmilla Carmine to try and find out why she is working with Hitler von Trumpelvox. They keep bickering at each other because this is the second act low point of season 2, and then Carmilla Carmine drops the best line in the entire show that perfectly encapsulates my feelings at this current moment.
I don't have time for this lesbian drama. What is it you want?
The reason why she joined Hitler von Trumpelvox is because heaven is obviously still a threat, and Vaggie responds to this factual statement by saying,
We just learned the hotel works. Why start a war now?
Fuck me, this dialogue. The hotel working changes nothing, and even if it did, Carmilla did not know that the hotel worked when she teamed up with Hitler von Trumpelvox. So her response would surely be, well, I didn't fucking know that, did I? Instead, she uses the same logic that she used in Season 1 when she helped Vaggie. When a fight is to come, she will protect her own.
You made the stand. You killed their leader. You started this war.
Did Carmilla think that she could just give weapons to Vaggie so that she could kill some angels and that heaven would just forget? What was she expecting? Here, have some angel-killing weapons, but whatever you do, don't use them to kill any angels because I'm a pacifist and I don't want war even though I'm an arms dealer, and so you could say that killing is my business. But they ultimately failed to convince her to break her allegiance with Hitler von Trumpelvox because heaven has put hell in a position where it has to win in order to survive. Later, Charlie is like, sorry for being a fucking moron this entire season, here, have cake, and Vaggie's like, yeah, okay, and then we get the most jarring opening of a musical sequence in the entire show.
I started it, and I'm a hypocrite, and my dreams are gonna die. Shut up, you know that I love you.
This is just suddenly music, and we are now at the point in the season where the musical numbers are there so that characters can sing a song to make everything okay.
I don't have time for this lesbian drama.
Sorry, Hazbin Hotel, you shouldn't have given me that zinger if you didn't want me to use it. I also find it highly amusing that this is the second time that we have had romantic melodrama between these two characters. The first was when it was revealed that Vaggie had been lying to Charlie for 3 years, that she is secretly an angel, and that she was responsible for partaking in the yearly genocides and for personally killing thousands of Charlie's people. The second is when Vaggie gives Charlie some tough love by saying, please stop giving Hitler von Trumpelvox the ammunition he needs to bring down the hotel, and yet for some fucking reason the latter appears to have been the greater hurdle to overcome. Which, I guess, means that Charlie thinks that Vaggie doing something with good intentions that then backfired is a far worse crime than Vaggie murdering thousands of people. Earlier in the episode, Husk quit because Charlie and Vaggie couldn't stop arguing, and he goes straight to a casino and sings a song about how much he misses being an alcoholic gambling addict. During the musical number, he fully reverts to his old ways by getting wasted while gambling all of his money away. Husk has been irrelevant to the plot of the show since episode 4 of season 1, and I have very little reason to care about this because it is unrelated to the current ramping up of the stakes in season 2. I don't know why we are doing this. I'm not sure why we needed to spend 10 minutes on, oh no, Husk has regressed, but don't worry, he's okay. But it turns out that Angel Dust has sought out Husk, and now I know exactly why we are doing this, because the writers wanted to repeat their moment from season 1, but flipped on its head. This time, Husk is in a bad place, and Angel Dust helps him break free. In isolation, as was the case in season 1, the Husk and Angel stuff is mostly quite good. But unfortunately, neither character has anything to do with the plot of season 2, which means you can just skip all of this because it achieves nothing. Then Angel Dust sings a song and everything is okay. Then Angel Dust gets a call from his boss, Valentino the Turbo Rapist, and he heads off to a seedy motel and is surprised to find himself face to face with none other than Trumpdolf Voxler, who reveals a little secret to both Angel Dust and the audience. Trumpdolf Voxler uses his Donald powers to mind control Angel Dust, and he has been doing this for some time. This is why he knew that the angels were coming to the rally, and this is why he knew that Lucifer could not harm him. Angel Dust was privy to that information, and under the sway of evil spooky Donald magic, he conveyed that information to Trumpdolf Voxler. Does Vivi Slop think that Donald Trump can mind control people?
Now here's the good news. That will never happen with me.
Trumpdolf Voxler explaining his evil plan to Angel Dust is obviously a means of communicating this information to the audience, but I actually like how they do this. The fact that he explains all of this while subduing him so that he can mind control him again suggests that he does this every time. They have had this conversation before, but Angel Dust can't remember it. This, therefore, shows quite clearly that Trumpdolf Voxler is being sadistic by taking pleasure in Angel Dust's anguish when he doesn't actually need to tell Angel Dust anything. The rest of this is shit, though, so let's go through it. We have seen Adolphus Trump Voxington do his spooky red eye thing a few times, but until now this was always, seemingly, just a heightened visual symbolizing the control, quote-unquote, he has as a result of his charisma. Until now, we were not expected to believe that Adolphus Trump Voxington could literally cast mind control and turn people into lobotomized servitors. Because we now know that Adolphus Trump Voxington can do this, we must ask why he did not do this until he started doing it with angel dust. So let's rewind back to Season 1, Episode 2, when Adolphus Trump Voxington sends Serpentius into the hotel as a spy.
We need someone who Little Miss Bleeding Heart would take in. I think I have just the one.
The visuals here could be suggesting, with the benefit of hindsight, that he mind-controlled Serpentius rather than asking or paying him to do this. But the problem is that, no doubt as a result of Vivislop not yet having decided that Vox has Donald powers, Season 1 Episode 2 gives zero impression that Adolphus Trump Voxington had mind-controlled Serpentius outside of this visual. The way the mind control seems to work is either that the subject will unknowingly send information to Adolphus Trump Voxington, or that Adolphus Trump Voxington is literally able to see through the eyes of the subject. And in either case, this means there is no reason to set up a camera inside the hotel. Additionally, when Serpentius is found out, Adolphus Trump Voxington throws him under the bus like, "Oh my god, how are you this bad at spying?" When, if he was legitimately under the sway of mind control, he would not be this bad at spying. Which means there is no reason to conclude that Serpentius was being mind-controlled, which means either that Adolphus Trump Voxington deliberately did not mind-control him, which makes absolutely no sense, or it means that the writers invented this power for Season 2.
It's not going to feel like we made it up as we went.
Liar! The next question I have is, why does it expire, and how long does it last? Evidently, there is a limit on the mind control, otherwise Donald Hitlervox wouldn't have to keep luring Angel Dust into a motel so as to give him a booster. But aside from that, I can only speculate. And my speculation, given the fact that I am pretty well versed in how these writers operate, is that they made the mind control have a time limit because they needed to justify this exposition scene for the benefit of the audience. And my final question for now is, when did this start? It is strongly implied that Angel Dust was mind-controlled sometime in between episodes 4 and 5, because at the start of episode 5, we got this.
I've had a headache all day.
There is a small detail in episode 3 that seems to imply that Angel Dust was under the sway of the Donald powers as early as episode 3. When Charlie is trying to convince him to get redeemed on camera, Donald Hitlervox does his spooky eye thing for a second, which could be suggesting that he made Angel Dust agree in the name of good TV. But if so, then this means that Donald Hitlervox very nearly got Angel Dust killed, which would have then removed his access to the hotel via mind control, unless he mind controlled someone. Why doesn't he mind control multiple people at once?
I have no fucking idea.
The writers obviously wanted to keep all of this vague so that they don't have to account for any of it later on. Maybe it's been going on for days or months or even years.
Who knows? That's the fun.
But they also dropped an obvious misdirect into this episode so as to trick the audience, which heavily implies that this has not happened before. There is a scene just before the motel scene in which Donald Hitlervox is like, "Hello, my good friend Jeffrey Valentino the Turbo Rapist. I may need to borrow Angel Dust for a bit."
I may need to borrow Angel Dust for a bit. Then before you say anything, just wait till you hear me out.
Implying that this has not happened before. If this was a repeat occurrence, then he wouldn't be so quick to preempt Valentino the Turbo Rapist's refusal. He would just say, "Come on, it's time to refresh Angel Dust's mind control." If Donald Hitlervox has been doing this for a while, then the manner in which he requests to borrow Angel Dust from Valentino the Turbo Rapist makes very little sense. But that's basically it for episode 6. 2 things happen that matter, nothing else does, so time for episode 7. Episode 7 opens with Donald Trump abducting Satan. Lucifer receives a phone call from Charlie saying, "Hey, come to this spooky evil factory place because I want to say sorry," and he obliges. It turns out that Dondolf Vox Trump is capable of hacking Lucifer's phone to make it look like Charlie is calling him, and he can also mimic Charlie's voice. Given that he can mind control people and teleport, this doesn't seem like too much of a stretch. What is too much of a stretch, however, is the widening of the writers' collective buttholes when they squeezed out this moronic garbage, and also the degree to which Lucifer's brain genuinely doesn't work. There comes a point when the word retarded is not enough, because retarded is a word forged by intellectuals who would seek to enslave us with it. This isn't, oh, he's adorably naive. This is, why would anyone ever do this? So Lucifer shows up at the appointed location singing a song about how he is the best dad ever, and he sees a big red X on the floor. Hazbin Hotel is earnestly doing the Kim Jong-il Hans Blix thing from Team America.
Stand ready to your left. Read them up. Good.
Except that the Team America version is less dumb because there is not a giant red X on the floor. And the Team America version is obviously lampooning this kind of ridiculous evil villain plan where the good guys are lured into an obvious trap.
But Random, that's not fair. Hazbin Hotel is a comedy just like Team America, so why is it okay in one and not the other?
Well, how about because Hans Blix getting tricked and eaten by a shark is a joke, and it is not critical to the narrative progression of the story of Team America. Dondolf Trumpelvox capturing Lucifer in this exact manner is a crucial part of his evil plan, which means the story is literally contingent upon Lucifer being a troglodyte. So because Lucifer is a troglodyte, and Dondolf Vox Trump knows that Lucifer is a troglodyte, he stands on the big red X and he finds himself trapped inside an egg. But not just any egg, oh no, 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 no. It turns out that this egg is made of angelic metal.
No, I am not shitting you.
Throughout all of this, Lucifer thinks that Charlie is playing an elaborate prank on him until Dondolf Vox Trump reveals himself.
Is this for me, honey? You want your old padre to kick it right here or something? I can kick it. You got me, Charlie. Are you pranking me right now?
And, I mean, yeah, that's one way to do it, I guess. Vivi Slop, you need the bad guy to capture Lucifer, who, despite being unable to harm sinners, is still incredibly powerful. But because you are incapable of writing character conflict, because that actually requires some level of skill, you instead just like to grab the idiot slider and set it to full fucking throttle to get your characters where you need them to be. Lucifer, need I remind you, can shapeshift. He can teleport. There are countless ways that he could get out of this angel egg, but no, sorry, he's not allowed. Then we get Adolf Don Hitlervox's backstory for no particular reason. He just imagines it, and so we get to see it. Adolf Don Hitlervox was once the Führer of the Third Reich before starting the MAGA movement in 2015. Okay, I'll do it properly. Adolf Don Hitlervox was a weatherman who did not enjoy his job. He became angry about the fact that other people had better jobs than him, specifically the news reporter. So he's like, wait a minute, I could murder that guy. So he slits his throat and throws him in a dumpster before getting the reporter's job for some reason. This is quite amusing because the show wants us to accept that Adolf Don Hitlervox was jealous of the news reporter's success, when in actuality, weathermen are usually more qualified and they typically earn more money than news reporters as a result. But let's not let real life get in the way of the story Vivi Slop wants to tell. Adolf Don Hitlervox then advances his career by repeatedly murdering people who have jobs that he wants, and then somehow both getting away with the murders and being given the jobs of the people that he murders. He kills a news reporter, a talk show host, his two producers, a nature documentarian, a cooking show host, a game show host, and the fucking CEO of the network. He murders everyone, and at no point is any member of the public or law enforcement like, why does everyone in Adolf Don Hitlervox's immediate vicinity keep dying or disappearing under suspicious circumstances? But no time for that now. Adolf Don Hitlervox is super charismatic and everyone loves him, and he promises that their futures will be better if they trust him. And so the cult is born. Then a TV falls on his head and he dies, which means he wasn't really a cult leader. He was just a supposedly beloved TV show host for an unspecified period of time. And this is, of course, exactly like Donald Trump, who famously murdered a dozen TV show hosts before himself hosting The Apprentice. Trumpdolf Voxler then broadcasts an emergency announcement to all of hell. This announcement consists of Angel Dust publicly slandering the hotel because he has been mind-controlled, and he tells the people of hell that the only way they can save themselves is by fighting back against the angels. Everyone listens to Angel Dust because, being a notorious whore, he knows all about cosmic injustice, good and evil, large-scale conflict, and fighting for survival. Trumpdolf Voxler then reveals his weapon, forged by the hands of pacifist arms dealer Carmilla Carmine.
I present to you the might of Lilith!
The weapon is a giant laser gun that is powered by Lucifer's goo.
God's rain shit upon us!
Trump Dolph Voxler then fires the anti-heaven gun at Heaven, and we've got to pause here because there is so much happening and none of it makes any sense. Until now, Hazbin Hotel has given the impression that Heaven, Hell, and presumably Earth are all on separate planes of reality. They are dimensionally disconnected, and they require magical portals to traverse. Although you can see Heaven occasionally in the skies above Hell, I assumed, given how stylized much of this show is, that this was a stylistic choice. And this stylistic choice is supported by dialogue within the show.
How would we, get up there?
This line coming from a character with wings who can fucking fly, therefore we can conclude that you cannot fly from Hell to Heaven. This episode, however, has just revealed that if you ask a pacifist to build you a giant fuck-off laser cannon, you can just aim up and shoot Heaven. This therefore confirms that Heaven and Hell are as separate as Earth and Mars. They both exist physically within the same plane of existence, which means you can get from one to the other, provided you have the technology to do so. Therefore, portals aside, Charlie and Vaggie could just fly up to Heaven whenever they want. Therefore, portals aside, Serpentius could be physically transported to Hell, which, we are to believe, would solve all of these problems by proving Trump Dolph Voxler wrong. So anyway, the anti-heaven gun fires and deactivates Heaven's Gungan shield generator. The angels are like, oh bugger, if only we hadn't accidentally created a weapon that can kill angels and then accidentally left hundreds of them in hell for absolutely no reason, a pacifist arms dealer wouldn't have been able to use them to backwards engineer a spear into an egg that can drain goo out of Lucifer so as to power a giant gun that can shoot through our shield. Are you keeping up? No, you're not. Don't lie. It's impossible to keep up with this because this is just stupid, unexplained nonsense stacked atop stupid, unexplained nonsense. Speaking of stupid, unexplained nonsense, Trump Dolph Voxler then hacks Heaven. He fucking hacks Heaven. And he broadcasts his face all over their heavenly TV screens. He tells them that Hell is going to invade, and he gives Sarah 24 hours to surrender, or a lot of angels are going to die. The angels now have a bit of a problem on their hands, and Lute, Emily, and Abel each argue their case to Sarah. Lute is like, we just need to flatten Hell immediately before they invade us. Emily is like, you have to let me talk to Charlie. Abel is like, wow, I'm fucking useless, I wasn't trained for this, what do I do? Setting aside Abel because Abel isn't presenting an argument, let's consider Lute and Emily. Lute's reasoning is that Adam was right. Hell is too dangerous to be kept alive, they have an anti-heaven gun and they are willing to use it. Therefore, they have two options. Attack Hell with full force, or wait and die. Emily's reasoning is that she needs to speak to Charlie so that she can... Lute is right, end of discussion. Because Sarah is an angel, she is also tragically cursed with being a fuckwit, so she has no idea what to do and says that she must pray. Because the show wants to imply that God exists but has no intentions of depicting God, Serpentius follows Sarah and instead of her praying to God, she has a chat with a little snaky boy. Sarah explains that her job is to enforce the judgment of heaven and to preserve the separation between the righteous and the wicked. But Serpentius's presence has made everything go all screwy because it doesn't make any sense. Using the Christian paradigm of heaven and hell only makes sense if the one passing judgment, God, is infallible, and if a soul is given the opportunity to be redeemed before being judged. If they do not repent for their sins, they go to hell. But Hazbin Hotel is not interested in making sense, so God is fallible probably, maybe, sometimes, but also not really, because according to the show, he's right in 99,999,999,999 times out of 100 billion, because only one person in the history of ever has gone to hell and then redeemed himself after the fact. Which means that souls are not judged when they die, and they are not given the opportunity to posthumously repent for their sins. Instead, they are sent straight to either heaven or hell, based entirely on how they conducted themselves when they were alive. Purgatory is not a thing in Hazbin Hotel, which means souls in hell are not actually given the chance to enter heaven until after they are sent to hell. Why would it ever work like this? I mean, I guess the reason is that it has to work like this for Hazbin Hotel to tell the story that it wants to tell, even though there is no reason why the creator of the universe and the arbiter of right and wrong would give people the opportunity to prove him wrong after he has already condemned them to the eternal lake of burning sulfur. Anyway, Sarah is like, oh no, what do I do? This doesn't make sense. And I'm like, yeah, I know the feeling. Then Serpentius sings a song and everything is okay. It really shouldn't be okay, because the song is just him explaining that the sinners are trying to take over heaven because they are scared, which solves nothing.
It starts with sorry.
No, it fucking doesn't! Like, I know you're trying to make things rhyme like poetry, but Sarah already tried that in the most inept manner possible. But regardless, you can't just say sorry and have things be okay. But Sarah, being an angelic fuckwit of cosmic proportions, is like, I see, I need to say sorry. That's how I solve this infernal conundrum. Which means Serpentius did indeed sing a song, and everything became okay. Sarah then presents her decision to the other angels. Lut is commanded to assemble the army, but to stand by. As a side note, I find it amusing but also infuriating that Lut is now treated as the head of the army because Abel is a sniveling incompetent moron. But Abel was always a sniveling incompetent moron, which means nothing has changed. Emily is informed that she has the remainder of the 24-hour time limit to try and resolve things peacefully, but if she fails, it is implied that Sarah will instruct Lut to wipe out all of hell, because I assume that she has come to the realization that, in spite of the fact that she needs to say sorry, she understands that you cannot coexist with a man who has an anti-heaven gun. Meanwhile, for reasons that I will get to later, Advox Trumpelstiltskin invites Charlie to his pre-invasion party the following day. Charlie agrees after learning that Lucifer is going to be there, and then suddenly Emily shows up doing her customary obnoxious screeching, and she says that they need to find a way to call off the attack. Vaggie astutely points out that it's a bit late for that because Advox Trumpelstiltskin already has everything that he needs. He has smeared Charlie, the hotel, and the concept of redemption. He has vilified the angels and acquired an anti-heaven gun. Now, things are going to get completely fucked. Funny how that keeps happening. They reason that it will take more than words to convince hell that Advox Trumpelstiltskin is full of shit, and so they decide to show them.
If hell can broadcast to heaven, I'm sure we can do the same.
God damn it, stop making shit up! So it turns out that Advox Trumpelstiltskin being able to hack heaven and broadcast his ultimatum by means that are neither explained nor even implied beyond him being an evil TV demon, so I guess evil TV magic or something, that ends up being crucial to the climax of this season. Emily uses this as evidence that broadcasting visual information between heaven and hell is possible, and she suggests that heaven broadcast evidence of Serpentius's redemption to the people of hell. No one at any point considered this before because shut up and don't think about it. No one considered bringing Serpentius to hell via a portal, which they could just do right fucking now because shut up and don't think about it. Baxter, you remember him? He was introduced in episode 1 and then did nothing for 5 episodes, reveals that he designed VoxTech's broadcast system, which means he alone has the ability to broadcast something to all of hell. What are the fucking chances that VoxTech's broadcast engineer also happened to be fascinated by the concept of redemption and decided to stay at the hotel, and also that he would be convinced to betray Advox Trumpelstiltskin and thereby risk his job and life entirely because, I shit you not, the hotel staff correctly folded his blankets every morning.
It's not going to feel like we made it up as we went.
You lie! You're a fucking liar!
But wait, it gets better, and by better I mean worse. Even with all of these coincidences stacking on top of each other, Baxter says that he cannot do such a broadcast from heaven because he does not have the technology. Luckily, the one soul in the history of ever who has traveled from hell to heaven also happens to be an evil scientist, who is also the one person who is as smart and capable as Baxter, which means they can both hook up the gigajoules from their assholes and quantum modify the nanotubes so that a signal can be broadcast from heaven to all of hell. I am not exaggerating here. This might just be one of the most contrived sequences I have ever seen. We have a very specific list of problems that need to be overcome, and every single last fucking one of them is overcome because of blind luck. How do we prove that Serpentius is in heaven? We broadcast it to all of hell. How do we know that we can do that? Because Advox Trumpelstiltskin can do that for some reason. How do we do that? Luckily, Baxter designed VoxTech's broadcast system so he can do it. Why would Baxter help us? Because luckily he really appreciated us folding his blankets. How do we send the signal from heaven? Luckily, we have a guy on the inside who is intellectually capable of inventing a device on short notice that will enable us to do it. Then Charlie sings a song and everything is okay. It all comes down to this. Donald Trampoline has a gun pointed at heaven. The angels have no plan beyond,
"We are deeply sorry."
And Charlie is in a race against time to successfully broadcast Serpentius to the people of hell so that they stop supporting the Orange Nazi.
Let us begin and see it come to pass.
The episode opens with Vaggie telling everyone the plan. She and Charlie will go to the party as guests to distract the bad guys and find Lucifer. Baxter, Nifty, Husk, and Cherry will sneak into VoxTech using Baxter's keycard, the expectation being that they can simply walk in the front door and sabotage Donald Trampoline's evil plan with the press of a button. Husk and Cherry will search for angel dust and break the mind control with the power of friendship, because they are inexplicably aware that angel dust has been mind controlled, and he hasn't just decided to support Donald Trampoline of his own volition. Vaggie will destroy the anti-heaven gun by figuring it out. Baxter and Nifty will hijack Donald Trampoline's signal to broadcast Serpentius instead, and for some reason, broadcasting Serpentius's face all over hell will resolve everything. Even though they apparently know that Donald Trampoline can mind control people, which means rational discourse is probably not going to work. We then waste no time, and we cut forward to Charlie and Vaggie arriving at the party outside V Tower while the others sneak inside. During the execution of this plan, Emily jumps backwards and forwards between heaven and hell using portals, and I need to just stop and highlight how poorly explained this is. The show has not clarified why Serpentius can't go through a portal. It has just been stated that he's not allowed to see his friends, which is not the same thing. I think that the show wants us to accept that it is physically impossible, for some reason, for him to travel via a portal. And if this is the case, then we need to consider why. The only people whom we can be certain are capable of using portals are Charlie, who is a demon, and Emily, Vaggie, Adam, Abel, Lute, and Sarah, all of whom are angels. Serpentius is not an angel. He is a mortal soul who ended up in heaven, and so I think we are to assume that the so-called winners cannot use portals for whatever reason. Okay, that's fine. So how do you level up from a winner to an angel? I ask because Adam and Abel, at the very least, were regular humans who became angels, and they are capable of using portals, which means it is possible for a mortal soul to use a portal, but how this works, I simply cannot say because the show gives us nothing. Additionally, if we are to believe that mortal souls cannot use portals, and that they can only be used by angels and hellspawn, then the simple fact that Vaggie was able to accompany Charlie through a portal to heaven in Season 1 should have been an immediate giveaway that Vaggie is secretly an angel, otherwise this would be impossible. If these portals are supposed to function where only Hellborn and angels can use them, then Charlie would have gone to heaven alone, because to her knowledge, none of her friends in the hotel are capable of using portals. Because of this constant lack of clarity as to how anything works, we are never given any kind of clear-cut reason as to why Serpentius cannot go back to hell and show his face. And given that the entire season is built on this seemingly arbitrary restriction, the result is that the season feels like contrived nonsense that only moves from point A to point B because the writers said so.
But random, Emily told him in episode 2 quite clearly that he can't leave.
Can I see them?
No. I don't think you can.
Yep, I'm well aware of that retarded alter ego, but that is insufficient. That's like having the plot rely on Serpentius not getting in a car, and simply having the driver say, "Sorry, Serpentius, you cannot get in the car." Why he can't get in the car is never addressed. People keep getting in and out of the car right in fucking front of him, and yet he is always like, if only I could get in the car, everything would be okay. Anyway, inside V Tower, Baxter turns off all the cameras because that's a thing that he can do, and no one responds to all of the cameras switching off, nor do they appear to even notice. Baxter then turns on the servers and starts computerizing Voxtech's computers, prompting Charlie to begin her gay little speech. For some reason, everyone, including Trump Dolph Hitbox, just sits there and listens to Charlie rambling about Serpentius, someone they have no reason to be at all familiar with. Okay, maybe Trump Dolph Hitbox is deliberately letting Charlie embarrass herself again. That might seem in character. But he knows at this point that Baxter has hacked his evil TV servers, which means he is not in control. The screens are displaying a PowerPoint presentation about Serpentius rather than Trump Dolph Hitbox's propaganda. So he should be shutting their butts down rather than waiting to see if Charlie puts her foot in her mouth yet again. Eventually, he does try to shut her down, but then this happens.
This is my Always wanted to do that.
Cute gag, but this means that you can completely disable an overlord by pressing a button on a computer. And normally I wouldn't care because this is a droplet of dumb in an ocean of obscenity, but this is the sole reason why Trump Dolph Hitbox is unable to stop Charlie from finishing her presentation. The writers apparently forgot that Trump Dolph Hitbox is an incredibly powerful demon, capable of many things even without his voice, including, but not limited to, teleportation, electrocution, and transforming into a giant spider tentacle TV demon thingy. But I guess Baxter also pressed the buttons that stop him doing any of that. Fuck you, moving on. Emily shows up and she and Charlie make their plea to the people of hell to be good, but then Donald Duck Voxellini uses his dastardly Donald powers to mind control all of them. Just before the broadcast is about to switch to Serpentius, we get a whole load of fight scenes. Velvet interrupts Baxter and fights Nifty, Cherry and Husk locate Angel Dust and then fight Valentino the Turbo Rapist, and obviously the good guys win. Well, I mean, they're all bad, but the slightly less bad guys win. Donald Duck Voxellini then gives his evil victory speech and asks Charlie to declare that he is the most powerful sinner in hell, which she refuses to do. Then Alistair cashes in his favor from the end of Season 1.
All I need from you is one itty-bitty favor. One favor at a time of my choosing where you harm no one. Do me this one simple favor.
And Charlie is forced to oblige. She announces that Donald Duck Voxellini is the strongest sinner in hell. On a totally unrelated note, the orcs in Warhammer 40,000 are a primitive race that generate a psychic field that grows in power the more of them are present at once. This has an exponential effect because the more orcs you have, the more orcs you are going to have, and so on, leading to what they call a The latent psychic power of the orcs is not directly controllable. They are not consciously able to cast spells, but they are capable of manifesting unlikely phenomena purely through the power of belief. Painting their vehicles red makes them go faster, and painting something purple makes it sneaky, which is, of course, why you never see a purple orc. The legendary human Commissar Yarrick gained such a reputation amongst the orcs that this led to him living far longer than any human should, entirely because the orcs believed that he was invincible. And one theory proposes that the reason why the Emperor of Mankind remains alive on the Golden Throne is because the orcs believe that the Emperor is literally a god. This is very much the magical power of self-belief, and although it has limits, it is very dumb, but it is appropriately dumb given the nature of the orcs. The limit is that none of the orcs are smart enough to consciously use this power, and so the ridiculous nature of the magical power of being incredibly stupid is prevented from breaking the fantasy setting because the orcs are not aware of it. So, why am I talking about orcs in a video about Hazbin Hotel? Well, because when Charlie declared that Donald Duck Voxellini is the strongest sinner in hell, line go up. Line go up so much that line hit 100%, so now he's the strongest sinner in hell.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Charlie saying something has made it true, which means that power levels in Hazbin Hotel appear to operate under orc logic. I'm not being facetious, that's just what happened. And I don't know why. Quick, help me out, Vivi Slop.
I'm not good at it.
Why did I fucking bother? Yeah, okay, so when Donald Duck Voxellini becomes the strongest sinner in hell, it undoes the contract Alistair had with Rosie, because there can't be two strongest sinners in hell, which means Alistair is no longer bound by whatever it is that Rosie wants him to do that still hasn't been clarified. Donald Duck Voxellini then insults Charlie by accurately describing her.
Thank you for sucking so much at everything you try to do.
And he places his hands on Charlie's shoulders. Now we need to rewind, because Voximus Donaldus Hitlerius making physical contact with Charlie has undone the demon contract between himself and Alistair. The deal was that Alistair would be a willing slave on the condition that Voximus Donaldus Hitlerius not lay a hand on Charlie, and now that contract has been broken. So let's track Alistair's plan through the show so far. Alistair made a deal with Rosie when he was alive, promising to do something unspecified for her, and in return, she will make him the most powerful sinner in hell. Alistair had been gone for 7 years prior to the start of Season 1, and he teamed up with Charlie as the patron of the hotel, claiming that it was for his own amusement. It is later revealed that this was all commanded by Rosie, although why she removed him from the public eye for 7 years, and why she wanted him in the hotel, is never addressed. He makes a deal with Charlie at the end of Season 1, giving him a favor in the bank that he cashes out at the end of Season 2 to undo the Rosie deal. My guess is that Alistair had not planned all of this in advance, because he couldn't possibly have planned it in advance, but it is entirely reasonable for him to make such a deal with Charlie, because it gives him a card to play at a later date when it suits him. He later leaves the hotel, believing inexplicably that Rosie is not holding up her end of the deal. He also inexplicably leaves Husk and Nifty in the hotel for absolutely no reason. This doesn't benefit him whatsoever, and Husk, at the very least, is shown to be very powerful, so keeping these two close by would only help Alistair get what he wants. When Rosie is like, no, go back to the hotel right now, mister, Alistair comes up with a new plan to get out of his deal with Rosie. He gets himself captured by Voximus Donaldus Hitlerius and makes a second deal. I will be your prisoner, do not lay a hand on Charlie. This deal on its own accomplishes nothing, because Alistair's objective is to get out of the deal he already has with Rosie, because Rosie owns his soul. In order for him to do that, he needs someone else to become more powerful than him, which would then mean that Rosie has failed to fulfill her end of the bargain, which would mean that the contract is void. This means, when he hands himself over to Voximus Donaldus Hitlerius, it is with the goal of getting out of the deal with Rosie. The only way this makes sense is if he planned, in episode 4, when he let himself get captured, to call in his Charlie favor to harness the power of orc logic to turn Voximus Donaldus Hitlerius into the most powerful sinner in hell, so as to void the contract with Rosie. There is simply no possible way that Alistair could have predicted this, because it requires that Voximus Donaldus Hitlerius becoming more powerful than Alistair is reliant upon Charlie doing what he says, because the leverage he has over Charlie is, you owe me a favor at a time of my choosing, and there are an infinite number of variables that could have prevented things from lining up as they do. The final part is the whole do not lay a hand on Charlie thing, which is what allows Alistair to break free. Voximus Donaldus Hitlerius has a habit of putting his hands on people's shoulders like this, so Alistair making this deal and using a technicality to void the contract makes sense. What makes less sense is that Voximus Donaldus Hitlerius didn't see this coming. This is like textbook demon contract stuff.
Fucking wordplay? You tricked me with a fucking technicality?
Baby, I'm a demon in hell. It's kind of our thing.
Alistair's plan has 3 moving parts and none of them work. The deal with Charlie doesn't work because it relies on Charlie being in a position where doing a favor for Alistair gets him exactly what he wants, which he could not possibly have predicted. The deal with Rosie doesn't work because voiding it is reliant upon Voximus Donaldus Hitlerius becoming more powerful than Alistair, purely because Charlie claimed it to be so. And the deal with Voximus Donaldus Hitlerius doesn't work because it requires that Voximus Donaldus Hitlerius is an idiot who didn't think for a moment that there might be some technicality bullshit going on in this very specifically worded demon contract he made with his arch-fucking enemy. But anyway, the conclusion of this convoluted nonsense is that Alistair is freed from both Hitlump Vox and from Rosie, and they have a giant epic boss fight during which Hitlump Vox loses his goddamn mind and starts firing the anti-heaven gun at Alistair, causing Zack Snyder levels of collateral damage, prompting Emily and Charlie to frantically set about rescuing the rapists, terrorists, and child abusers from the wreckage. Just as Baxter manages to get the broadcast back online, V-Tower is hit by the anti-heaven gun, and Baxter and Nifty come literal inches away from being vaporized. Because the servers are now offline, the plan can no longer work. That is, unless the writers pull something else out of their cavernous assholes. Shit for the shit god, poo for the poo throne.
Our only hope is that Pentious can rig something so overwhelmingly powerful that he can force it down here.
Oh wow, so this plan really was totally unnecessary. You could have just told Serpentius to squeeze really hard and Deus Ex Machina his way to victory. Eventually, the Voxenführer is defeated, and as a result, line go down, which means the sinners are all like, boo, we hate you, Voxenführer, you're a liar. Alistair nearly gets hit by the anti-heaven gun, but Emily rescues him, presumably unaware that Alistair is a literal serial killer who obviously belongs in hell. Vaggie, meanwhile, has investigated the anti-heaven gun and discovered that it is powered by Lucifer's goo, and she spent the next 15 minutes or so during the fight haplessly poking the metal frame of this ridiculous thing with her spear, like, why can't I just stab this giant metal gun to death? Luckily, Carmilla Carmine has a change of heart, and she shows Vaggie that in order to destroy the anti-heaven gun made of angelic metal, one must cut the wires that are for some reason not made of the indestructible material that she has access to. Supreme Overlord Hitler von Donald Vox is then like, oh cool, I can just shoot Alistair, Emily, and Charlie all at once. And then we get another development straight from the depths of the writer's assholes. Carmilla warns him that if he fires the anti-heaven gun again, it will overload and blow everything up. Oh no! Why did you do that, you idiot? Aren't you and Vaggie in the process of disabling it? Or did you design it so that when you try to disable it, the anti-heaven gun becomes a stationary hydrogen bomb and then you forgot that you designed it in that way? The big emotional climax of the season is entirely reliant on the anti-heaven gun having been designed in such a way that it cannot be turned off, and it kills everything in the nearby area when you use it.
Alrighty then.
Supreme Overlord Donald von Hitlervox, having been character assassinated, doesn't care, and he decides to just kablamo everyone to death. All seems lost, but then Velvet and Valentino the Turbo Rapist show up to stop him. Because Valentino might be a turbo rapist, but at least he isn't going to lower himself to the depraved depths of working with Donald Trump. These two have been shown to be losing faith in Supreme Overlord Hitler von Donald Vox gradually throughout the season. They are no longer the V's, they are now his minions. Valentino the Turbo Rapist was angry that Supreme Overlord Donald von Hitler Vox told him to stay backstage during the rally, because Supreme Overlord Hitler von Donald Vox wanted the spotlight all to himself. And Velvet was pissed off because Supreme Overlord Donald von Hitler Vox made her apologize to Carmilla about some bullshit from season 1. The groundwork is there for this betrayal, but the way the betrayal is executed means that the groundwork was not necessary. Had the writers made Supreme Overlord Hitler von Donald Vox increasingly treat them like shit leading to a mutiny, then okay, that would make sense, and I thought that was where this story was going. Instead, Supreme Overlord Donald von Hitler Vox loses his fucking mind and tries to blow up the entire city and everyone in it. So, obviously Velvet and Valentino the Turbo Rapist are going to have a problem with that, regardless of how they had been treated previously. All seems resolved. The bad guys are defeated, and the anti-heaven gun is not going to explode, because they managed to stop Don Hitleroni from firing it, except that fuck you, it's still going to explode because what even are stakes anyway? Oh my god, whatever shall the heroes do now? Well, Emily walks up to the overloading anti-heaven gun and tries to shield it with the power of gay. But she isn't gay enough, so she sings a gay song and then everything is okay. During the song, everyone teams up and channels their powers of gay. I don't know how they are doing it, but whatever it is, it's gay as hell, so I guess they're firing their gay powers into the anti-heaven gun to try and save the day. But oh no, then Lute shows up to kill everyone, and Abel, the incompetent fuckwit, finally grows a spine. He stops Lute and they leave.
I was not expecting that.
This is entirely inconsequential. It is a 30-second long obstacle that literally spawns in via a portal and then leaves. The problem is resolved in exactly the same amount of time that it takes for Patrick Stump to sing his verse of the song. Okay, that's why they made this happen. They paid for Patrick Stump, they realized that Abel didn't really have any singing parts until now, and they were like, oh fuck, I don't know, quick, make him show up, sing, and leave in the final episode. Anyway, the other overlords join in by channeling their powers of gay, except for Valentino, who instead channels his power of turbo rape. And with all of hell united under one giant homosexual banner with a generous side of rape, they manage to destroy the anti-heaven gun without it harming anyone. Luckily, Lucifer is unharmed, even though he was trapped in an evil magic egg that was attached to the anti-heaven gun, because I guess the power of gay knew that he was a goodie, and so that's why he didn't die. But yeah, that's the happy ending, except that, I must mention, although the show wants us to accept that a temporary peace has been achieved, Heaven cannot allow Carmilla Carmine to live, because she knows how to make an anti-heaven gun. Also, while they're at it, they should probably execute Valentino on account of him being a turbo rapist. Anyway, Serpentius then finishes building his broadcast tower in heaven, and he's like, hello, hell, redemption is real. Charlie then has a conversation with Serpentius via the TV, which, Vivislop, that's not how TVs work. Fuck it, we're so close to the end. The season ends with the hotel being flooded with new arrivals, and we are told that Heaven has just kind of forgotten about the fact that they were this close to being wiped out by Dondolf Trumpelvox.
Panic among the winners subsided quickly. I guess it's easy to let things go when you live in paradise.
Once again, the cliffhanger ending involves Lilith, so I need to backtrack and cover all of the Lilith stuff across both seasons, which, don't worry, that's not going to take long because there isn't really any, and what little there is just the same thing on repeat. Lilith was created by the angels. She was the first woman. She rejected Adam and fell in love with Lucifer before giving free will to humanity against the wishes of the angels. This resulted in the formation of Hell, and Lilith was cast into Hell by the angels as punishment. Lilith thrived in Hell and ruled it because Lucifer became depressed and useless, and Lilith's dream was passed down to Charlie. We get all of this in Season 1, Episode 1. So what was Lilith's dream? What does Lilith want? She seems to want humanity to have free will, but I can't tell you why. And based on the prologue, it appears that she successfully gave humans free will, so what dream was passed on to Charlie is unclear. We later learn that Charlie is motivated to make Lilith proud. She says that the reason she is so fixated on making the hotel work is that she wants to realize Lilith's dream, to finish what she started, which suggests that Lilith wanted to rehabilitate sinners. Even though Lilith's dream had nothing to do with redemption, Lilith seemingly only wanted to give humans free will, which she did, and to then rule hell, which she also did until she disappeared. Lilith had been gone for 7 years by the start of Season 1. Why she disappeared is unknown, but she has had zero contact with Charlie, in spite of Charlie repeatedly phoning her and leaving messages. The cliffhanger ending of Season 1 is the reveal that Lilith is in heaven, seemingly on holiday. Lute informs her that Adam is dead, and so the deal Lilith had with Adam is done. If Lilith wants to stay in heaven, she needs to stop Charlie from ruining everything.
In Season 1, we also gave a cliffhanger, but it wasn't like a cliffhanger. It was a like, whoa, that what's gonna happen? But because we didn't know if there was gonna be more at the time, I made it Lilith, and then when we got more, I went, okay, I want to save Lilith. And so it was like it's the one thing I'll admit to people that yes, it wasn't like a retcon, but it was like yes, we did dodge it. We did immediately go, yeah, actually, no, she's not coming down. We're good.
Translation, you had no idea what you were doing. You baited a character and then changed your mind, which means when viewed in context with Season 2, that cliffhanger means nothing. Lilith doesn't do anything in Season 2. We get no further information as to what her deal with Adam entailed, and she is nothing more than a mystery box for Season 3, maybe, unless the writers change their minds again. Season 2 tells us that Lilith was a natural leader, she was confident and calm, and Charlie looks up to her. And both Charlie and Lucifer believe that Lilith would strongly approve of what Charlie is doing with the hotel. Later in the season, we get Donvox Hitler's presumably incorrect view of what Lilith wanted. He claims that 7 years ago, Lilith had a dream to rally the sinners and attack heaven so as to liberate them from the genocides that hadn't started at that point. She disappeared without a trace before she was able to start a war, and Donvox Hitler claims to want to finish what Lilith started. Donvox Hitler's presumed lies about Lilith make things even less clear. Because if he was like, yeah, Lilith wanted us to take over, I'm finishing her mission, look, I even named the anti-heaven gun after her, when in actuality Lilith wanted to redeem sinners to get them out of hell, then no one would believe Donvox Hitler. Lilith ruled hell before she disappeared, which means most if not all sinners would know who she was, and they would have some idea of what she was like. And if Don Vox Hitler is able to just declare that Lilith wanted to invade heaven and take over, and if everyone believes this, then this means his lie must fit, at least somewhat, with the truth. Which means it appears that the show wants us to believe that Lilith was all about redemption, as this informs Charlie's core motivation throughout the entire show, but the world building strongly suggests that Lilith was all about world domination. These are mutually exclusive, and even if the show picks one in Season 3 and confirms what Lilith was actually doing 7 years ago, this will either invalidate Charlie's entire character, or it will depict the entire population of Hell as being idiots with the memory of a Vivi-slop. At the end of Season 2, Charlie phones Lilith and leaves another message explaining that the hotel is working. Maybe the reason why Lilith has been ignoring Charlie's phone calls is because you can't simply pick up a phone in hell and call someone who is in heaven, and this is directly supported by the show itself, because Baxter and Emily explain that the technology used to make TV broadcasts is completely different in each realm.
Invent a way to make heaven's completely alien technology compatible with hell's.
But actually no, fuck you, because Season 2 ends with Lilith phoning Charlie before we cut to black. Why did she phone Charlie? Why was she ignoring her calls until now? Tune in next time to find out, unless the writers change their minds. What the fuck was that? And how did it get worse? You didn't have anything and you still blew it. Those of you in my comments who were like, you need to watch Season 2 because it fixes everything with Season 1, you got me, well done, let's all laugh at random for having any expectations for this show. What do I even say to summarize this? The writing insists that the heroes are sympathetic when in actuality they are brain-dead Neanderthals, and it insists that the villains are irredeemably evil when in actuality they tend to be the only characters with a lick of sense. Vox was a somewhat okay villain, aided by the best voice acting in the entire show, until the last couple of episodes where he just becomes a crazy person who wants to explode everything. The world building goes from a 1 out of 10 to a 0.1 out of 10 by breaking things that I didn't even know you could break. The obnoxious deconstruction of Christianity isn't quite as insufferable as in Season 1, but it remains about as thoughtful and insightful as a pigeon taking a shit in your belly button. The writers don't know how anything works, the characters are unable to understand each other, and the world is incapable of reacting to anything because there is no consistency to use as a baseline for understanding anything within the world. Season 1 felt like it had something to say. What it had to say was fucking dumb, but at least it seemed like it was desperately trying to make a point. Season 2 seems to just be an excuse for a banger of a soundtrack. Which brings me to, is there anything worthwhile to be found in this show? Yeah, absolutely, but that kinda makes everything else worse by comparison. Sam Haft and Andrew Underberg wrote some excellent music for Season 2. Where the music for Season 1 was occasionally quite good, the music for Season 2 is consistently pretty great. I genuinely feel sorry for the songwriters, and the cast members come to think of it, because the soundtrack itself is great. I will even go so far as to say that the narrative content of the songs is great, and theoretically you could write a better version of the TV show whilst keeping the basic setting and characterization, and you could keep all of the music entirely intact. This means that you could just listen to the soundtrack, and you would get a far better version of the story than you get in the TV show, which includes a whole load of stuff in between the songs, and all of it is horrendous. Where Season 1 had 1, maybe I could be persuaded on 2 earworms, Season 2 has at least 6, and as a standalone work of art, I need to praise the soundtrack because it really is quite good. Seeing as how my first Hazbin Hotel somewhat exceeded expectations, there is a strong likelihood that I will cover Season 3 when it eventually comes out, and in the meantime I might cover Hell of a Boss, which is a spin-off of Hazbin Hotel. If you would like to see me cover Hell of a Boss, please let me know in the comments. But that brings us to the end of the video. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed. In the description you will find links to my second channel and the community Discord server, and if you would like to support the channel, you can become a member or sub to my Patreon. Thank you again for watching, I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video.